It's picked up. Fafita scrambling, throws deep, end zone, caught, touchdown, Kian Burnett.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Wimsick keeps it, following Sumo Karnbay, and the ball comes out into the end zone. It is recovered for a touchdown by Josh Kess.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Edge pressure. Ward ducks away. Spencer had him. Ward flips it to Williams. How do you like this? Down the sideline. Push down inside the 5.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Long throw caught in Arkansas territory and a broken tackle. Noah Thomas down the sideline into the end zone. Touchdown, Texas A&M.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
And they take a downfield shot. And the catch is made. It's Ryan Williams. Still spinning free. Touchdown, Alabama. They answer in one play. 75 yards for the 17-year-old. Are you kidding us?
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Hello?
I don't hear anything.
Oh.
I have no audio. Sorry, boys. Good afternoon. This is 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak, the old man in the sea. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, Garrett Ross, and Emery Winter are here. 365 Sports will take you up until 6 o'clock. We have an analyst who covers Iowa State. Former Baylor safety Ahmad Dixon will join us today at 4, the Big 12 South Pod. We'll have Craig's Off the Radar, Paul's Top 5, and former AP writer and columnist Ralph Russo, now a part of theathletic.com, will join us, and Mickey Spagnola on the 2-2 Cowboys. So how about the power? We've discussed this. Craig, you even brought this up yesterday with the numbers of Colorado. Fox noon, big noon kickoff, put this out. I really don't understand what all this means, but apparently it's a pretty big deal because they put it out. 2.6 billion impressions, 51,000 mentions, 80 million media value. That game with both Colorado and UCF, and, of course, their big noon kickoff show on that Saturday morning.
Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, it's a great thing for Fox. I mean, that's great that they've got some media attention. I don't really get too in-depth and in love with people's self-promotion graphics as far as their impressions and all these types of things. That's not really my bag, but for a big network, that's something you obviously want to flaunt. And Colorado is a team that people are watching. I think that's pretty clear based on the TV ratings. And so Fox is trumpeting that just like ESPN trumpets their SEC broadcasts and, you know, whatever else they feel like they need to put out there and be happy about. So certainly I'd imagine Fox is thrilled with how Colorado is playing and the fact that they are more interesting when they're winning, and they've been able to outlast their interest levels from last year because they've taken this into a second month and look like they could take it into maybe a third month as well. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. They're the team that people love to hate or love to love, and I think there's definitely both of those parties in play, and I think there's a lot of people like me who see the benefit for the Big 12. I'm not rooting against them. I actually defended them early in the season when it was very popular for a lot of people, especially nationally, just dump all over them after one or two games. You've seen a lot of backtracking right now. So good for Dion and the Buffaloes, and I'm sure people are going to stay glued in as long as they're staying competitive.
Yeah, I was one of those people who was dumping on them, for sure. I thought that they were, after watching the North Dakota State game where I came away unimpressed with their physicality, and the Nebraska game in which they had no physicality, I thought there's no way that this team can withstand a full season of this. And since that moment, they've turned it right around and won 3 games in a row. So I'm happy to eat crow on this when I'm wrong, because clearly they're getting better. But after that Nebraska game, it looks like this is a team that's not getting better, that's regressed, and had not addressed the things that were problems a year ago. They were just going, like, we've got a bunch of athletes, we'll win it that way. But it appears that they are committing to fixing those little things.
I think the coaching staff deserves a lot of credit. Position coaches deserve credit, the coordinators, Dion, and, of course, the players as well. In the Nebraska game, let's not forget now, that was a game that Nebraska circled probably as soon as they knew the date, because Colorado humiliated them in Boulder the year before with every way possible to win a game. So that was kind of a game that they circled before the year started. There are 2 games tonight, by the way. College football doubleheader. In a way, ESPN2 has Texas State and Troy, 5 o'clock. And then at 7 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network, you have Sam Houston State, and also who will be the newest member of the Mountain West Conference in a couple of years, UTEP and the Miners. So a couple of games. This is the start of that 50-plus days in a row where there's at least a college game and or an NFL game that is on for us to watch it in many days, many games. So I know that he's not in college football. He's now coaching the Raiders. He has his own problems with Vegas and that football team, including Devontae Adams in his future. But this Antonio Pierce, 8-year show cause penalty from the NCAA for his involvement in those recruiting violations at Arizona State under head coach Herm Edwards. We know that, I guess, almost all that staff is gone. Kenny Dillingham is in charge now, but 8-year show cause penalty for whatever Antonio Pierce, which was a lot when it comes to violations, visits, recruiting, etc. He's not going to play or coach college football again, you don't think. But that was a note that Max Olson had earlier today.
I think the most interesting thing is part of these violations are that he took a recruit's parents to a strip club. Kind of a weird thing to throw into a recruiting trip.
Yeah, well, according to Chris Cartman, took recruits to a local gun range, had staff drive recruits to a local bowling alley and arcade. He and others took recruits' parents to a strip club with the recruiting staff, as you mentioned there. So, they were all over the place having a whole hell of a lot of fun, apparently, but really bad decision-making in the process. And 8-year show cause, I think, really hammers that home, and realize that they're going to strip club during COVID times is what they would have been doing.
That's where I'd want to go.
So,
right?
real concerned about it. The virus are going to the strip club of all places. But anyways, who cares about that? It's just funny to tack onto the.
It's okay.
The
The dancers
story.
were masked up, so
yeah, it's just a nice little other note to it.
It's fine.
That was the only thing they were wearing. 67 pages, Craig. You're right. Also, what he did was he tried to. I guess you could say it a lot of different ways, but he was trying to lead with false and misleading information during what was the investigation.
They just basically bucked COVID rules. They bucked recruiting rules. They bucked every rule. Herm Edwards was aloof, and I don't think he even cared that much because apparently he wasn't even involved in one of the hires that they made, had not even met or interviewed the receivers coach that they hired until after Antonio Pierce had hired him, according to one passage there. So really, really big CEO stuff there from Herm Edwards. I never disliked the guy per se, but I never was in love with him. Like a guy we used to co-host the show with, like, thought he was great, and I just didn't understand why. And I think I kind of understand why, but it's like, you know what I'm saying.
I talked to him about it today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I think that was always kind of a bomb waiting to go off, but even way worse than I ever expected because I didn't think that they would just so blatantly just disregard the rules, basically. And what good did it really do them? Honestly, it did Arizona State no good at all, and they're in a much better place with Kenny Dillingham, that's for sure.
Well, they've now moved on, and they're trying to move on, and of course they have cleaned up everything. I want to say this, and I hope that Garrett gets this. Former LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels' mother was a major part of this investigation.
It happens.
But when he does play well as former Arizona State quarterback, when it doesn't involve the recruiting issues. This is the note. Paul sent this. Sawyer Robertson The Baylor offense, there's no question there's frustration. Who knows? Craig, of course, Monday really kind of summed up the feeling of most everybody. And others have done that, whether it's on Twitter or whether it's in message boards or even on this show and other particular shows. That man, people are just, they want to win. They just want to win a game. I say we as in Baylor wants to win a game. Sawyer Robertson has been a bright spot. Now, he threw the deadly pick at the end of the game when they still had a chance to maybe pull that game off. But the second highest QBR rating in the Big 12 at 83.3. We know some of the quarterbacks even not have enough games or snaps, or some aren't playing at the level. But he has played well since he took over for DeQuan Finn.
Yeah, look, they don't have a problem at quarterback right now, which is something they did have for a couple years. Sawyer Robertson's playing well, which highlights the fact that they're not doing the little things that they need to do to win games. That if you've got the second highest QB rating in the Big 12 right now, you're squandering a good thing, clearly. Mm-hmm. And that to me, while that's a good thing, that's the sign of trouble to me, that you have a guy at the most important position who's actually doing well, but it doesn't matter because you're doing a lot of other things poorly.
Yeah, he's been really solid. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but he's been certainly the least of their problems. I think when the defense has played well, that's when they're really showcasing their best. But I think right behind that is Sawyer Robertson's play. There's no running backs that pop off the page because Bryson Washington hasn't been able to really hit a stride, and none of the others have come close to getting any type of a rhythm or impact on a consistent basis. The receivers, there's guys that poke their heads up every once in a while, but none of them are consistent. The tight ends are a non-factor. So you look at over the defensive side, and as a collective, there's things to like there. But, yeah, it's the defense. Not in the first quarter against BYU, though. But, for the rest of that game, basically, and Sawyer Robertson is what kept you in that. And then, various other guys making plays at certain times. But they don't have a lot of star power. He's probably as close as they come to that. Having said that, those are two really bad picks last week. I mean, there's slow motion one. Look, it's slow motion, so I'm not putting too much stock in that because, yeah, it's easy for me to see slow motion. But when you look at, the wall of arm that he was throwing directly into, I know it's bang, bang, but it's like, dang, how'd you not see that? Okay, whatever. It was very quick, and I'm certainly not capable of making that decision, so that's going to happen. You're going to get a ball batted down. But it was not even close where you were throwing the ball. It had no chance to go past the guy. So anyways, fine. Let's just chalk that up to bang, bang, and it happened. Well, then what happened on the second interception, technically it was his fault, but it was a great call by BYU, apparently, that they had called something that they had never called in the course of that game until that point. They had one of their assistants who just had a really good idea and had seen what Baylor was doing and thought that this particular call would be a way to seal this game. And sure enough, they have the defensive back, show a different look, and he goes over there when Sawyer's, I guess, not seeing him or expecting him, and basically throws it right to him. And clearly did not see him, that's for sure. And that ends the game right there. So he got fooled. The offense got fooled on that. Those are the types of things that hopefully get better with more experience. But, yeah, those two plays were, especially that second one, the crux of that game and why you ultimately weren't able to try and finish and get a big win at home. So areas for improvement, but he's been really, really good.
If you wanted to give – and you could list off 10 or 12 things, but what are the top three problems? If you were to say, fix this, and this.
Offensive line. I'll put
it in I'll say guard, tackle, and center.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, that's the three biggest.
In no particular order.
Haven't they pass protected pretty well?
I mean, I guess.
It's not even about pass protection. It's about the fact you can't run the football at all.
I'm not.
It makes you so one-dimensional.
Not disagreeing with the offensive line. I'm just saying, but they have seemed that's one thing they've done better, but you can't run the ball.
Yeah. So it's it's great. You can do one thing, but it doesn't add up to anything good ultimately because you can't do the other thing. So, yeah, I mean, if we're looking to put a spin on it and say, they've been really good at this. They've been okay to good, I guess, at pass blocking. A lot of good it's done them.
Yeah.
I mean, what good has it done in Big 12 play? Not one iota. So, yeah, good luck. Yeah, I hope you are good at pass blocking because that's all you're going to probably be doing this weekend because you're probably not going to be able to run the ball again. And so it's going to be all about passing. So, that puts more stress on Sawyer Robertson to have to make throws because he's got to basically feel like he's doing it all himself sometimes because they don't have a rushing attack that can carry its own weight right now. So, I think the biggest problems are on the O-line, and they don't have an alpha at wide receiver. They've got a couple guys who I think can sniff that air, but they're not consistently good enough to be that dude. If you had Ketron Jackson actually turn into that guy, which he's clearly not going to at this stage in his career, that's fine. He has the tools for it, but he's just not that guy, it seems like, mentally or emotionally or physically. Then you could have him dressed up with a Monterey Baldwin and Ashton Hawkins, and that'd be a pretty damn good wide receiver core. But they don't have, like, the big receiver, that's going to go get the jump ball. And they try to go to Ketron in those situations, and it's either always incomplete or he draws a penalty, and that's cool, but when you can't punch it in the end zone, like, you need those guys to make those catches in those moments. And so, I think you could be better there. You could be better in some places, but certainly if you're starting, center, guard, tackle, that's where you would like to be better on this football team.
You guys know how I now have become Mr. Statistic and Trends and Analytics. Baylor is actually ranked 72nd in the country in sacks allowed. So not bad out of 131. It's still
they're in
too
the
many.
middle.
That's it. It may be a little bit past the middle, but I just wanted to make sure I had evidence. And again, like in Shador's case, Colorado had 8 in one game, and then all of a sudden they've kind of tightened that up a little bit. So Brady Cook is the quarterback at Missouri. I saw this from Carter Corrales, who covers A&M. Mike Elko on his radio show saying that Brady Cook's comments, it has been interesting that we've had people call out Kyle Field a little bit. I heard their quarterback say today that it's louder in practice than it is at Kyle Field. To me, that's a challenge to the 12th man. Now, I did not have time to look up whether or not even Brady Cook said that, or this is Mike Elko stoking the fire. Whether he does or not, that place is going to be packed. It's a big game against a highly ranked team, the only game in the country with 2 ranked teams. But I don't think it's Brady Cook's not that. He's not going to say that, but maybe he was.
Well, how about we read the exact quote?
Huh?
How about we read the exact quote of what he said?
Okay, go ahead.
At some point, it can only get so loud. In my opinion, the noise at practice is actually louder. They put these big speakers pretty much 2 feet right behind me. You can't hear anything. It's loud. At stadiums, it's loud, but it's like a surrounding, more distant loud.
That's
in no way does he talk about Kyle Field directly or just about Kyle Field alone in that. So, great job, headline guys. You got your attention, but clearly that wasn't what it was made out to be.
And look, if that fires up the Aggie crowd to make
it's
it
college
louder,
football. They'll look at anything. The custodian said that Kyle Field wasn't loud enough. You see him in a press conference going, "They don't believe in us." Like that's
That's Kirby Smart saying no one believed in us.
Yeah, we're 30-point favorites, and we've been favored in every game, but nobody believes in us. Like, it's that kind of a thing. So these coaches, they got rabbit ears, and they got all their assistants watching all the press conferences from the opposing team, and they're looking for anything like that. So they got a little half a sentence that looked like it might be about Kyle Field, and they took that and obviously are using as motivation, and that's what every staff does with any kind of bulletin board material they can grab. Anytime you ask a coach, did you use this or that as bulletin board material, 99.9% of the time the answer is yes in some capacity. So I think that just goes with the territory, and clearly Elko taking what he can get to try and pump his team up. And, hey, I hope that it does pump A&M up. Get Missouri out of there. I don't believe in them where they are ranked currently. I don't think they've played anybody. And so this is a big test for them, and if they pass it, it's not the biggest test, obviously, but if they do go in there and they get a win, then I'll prop them up a bit more. But right now, I feel like they're getting a lot of that SEC weight behind their ranking right now, more so than how actually good they are.
This would be a win that would look good because, again, A&M's only lost to Notre Dame this year, and they only lost to Notre Dame by a score. So, that was a close game the whole time.
This is what will happen. If A&M wins, they'll jump 10 spots, and Missouri will drop 2 or 3. 3 teams in the country, by the way, have not a lot of sack. Army, not a surprise. But I saw them chunking it around the other day.
Yeah. Well, it's still when you only throw
7 times
through 4 games.
Is Georgia Tech running the bone again like they used to?
No.
Okay.
No.
They have not a lot of sack, and neither has New Mexico, the Lobos. Oklahoma State has allowed 1, by the way. And also, there's another academy. Air Force has allowed 2, even though they don't throw the ball much either. This is an interesting note. The college football film room. We have discussed Ashton Gente, and we've talked about many of the running backs around college football. Here are the leaders in the FBS and college football who have broken or caused more missed tackles per 20 carries. Anthony Tyus III. Right below that, Jeremiah Love, who's a really good player from Notre Dame. Where did he transfer from? Wasn't he a transfer? Was he from Georgia Tech? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about somebody else. Ashton Gente at 3. And then you could see Jarquez Hunter, Tootin, and also K'Ron Lynch-Adams, all averaging about 8 times per 20 carries. They make somebody miss or they break a tackle.
Yeah,
Jeremiah Love has been at Notre Dame for 2 years.
Yeah, he's purebred Notre Dame.
Good.
So
I'd love to see more of that.
But yeah, you know what? I was surprised that there were 2 people on this list ahead of Ashton. Like that. I mean, he also has more rushing yards than most of the teams in the country right now by himself.
Yep,
he is absolutely torching it. So to see that there's a stat that he's not leading in, although he's not far off from it, was kind of surprising to me.
Taj Brooks, I thought we might see Taj Brooks on that list. He has 551 yards, but again, Ashton Gente has 167 yards more than Caleb Johnson, who's really good from Iowa. Deuce Knight, the number 2 dual-threat quarterback in the country for 2025, has flipped from Notre Dame to Auburn. Auburn's class is highly rated. Hugh Freeze and Auburn lost to Oklahoma last week. I don't know what they're going to end up, what their record's going to be, but they're putting together one hell of a class, and the number 2 dual-threat quarterback in the country has flipped from Notre Dame to Auburn. There's that from Pete Thamel.
Well, they can certainly use him because what they have is definitely not up to snuff, and they definitely need a shake-up at that position moving forward if Hugh Freeze wants to be in Auburn, Alabama for a longer period in time. So, yeah, big loss for Notre Dame. It's actually been refreshing to not really care about recruiting all that much, especially during the season. I just lost interest when it became such a daily thing, and not to be old man, but I just don't care about top 12 lists, guys. I just don't give a crap because they don't mean anything, and I've seen too many times where a guy picks a team that wasn't even on his top 12 list after months of accumulating the fan base love. Young people are smart. Get all that attention, all those big fan bases, all those social media followers, go follow my Instagram, all this and that. I don't care. I'm too old for it. And so with the transfer portal, it just feels like that's not something you have to be tabs on with nearly as much, unless you just love it. And if you love it, that's great. I was that person at one point in time. I just am not that person anymore. And so this was definitely a big headline in that realm, but it is kind of nice to just have the bigger story pop through every once in a while and not so much care about the day-to-day minutia of it all. But that's a big get for Hugh Freeze, and that's a big loss for the Irish. So we'll see what he can do with it. But, yeah, Peyton Thorne stinks, man. I mean, what a god-awful pick 6, and just they've got to get better there. So this is an encouraging thing, especially after last weekend for Auburn fans.
Well, 2 weeks ago, Hugh Freeze said it's all the quarterback's fault.
Oh, yeah.
He pulled a Jimbo. This is what this is called. It might wind up being called a Hugh because he raised this to an art form and threw both his quarterbacks under the bus, pulled them out, and threw them back under it again after it backed up. And then last week, clearly somebody went to Hugh and said, hey, you do know that this is your fault too, and you're the guy who gets to pick who our quarterback is for the most part.
You brought him here.
You brought him here. And so then he did the thing of well, we've got to put these guys in better positions to win and all that. Okay, Deuce Knight's the biggest get he's going to have, at Auburn if it works out. Now, look, Deuce Knight's already flipped his commitment once. There's no reason to think that he won't do it again, but if they can keep him there until signing day in December, then best of luck to you, Hugh.
It's a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
What positions with the name of Deuce Knight are you not allowed to play? That's a great name. That could be a running back.
One where you can play wherever you want to.
Yeah.
You're probably not a kicker.
You could run
you
for
can't be a
president
kicker
with
or a
name
punter,
like that, right?
You can be a great linebacker, defensive
Nose
end.
tackle?
You can be a Deuce Knight, yeah.
He would wear number 6 or something like that. What's the guy's name from Florida State in the NFL now? Verse?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You could
Deuce Knight. I love that name.
No, it's a great
Dave
name.
Portnoy Michigan fan, alum. He's also in charge of Barstool. Does a great job. He hinted at the fact that he would spend $1 million or more dollars to help Notre Dame or Michigan land a big-time transfer quarterback. Well, this story here, he wants the deal to be direct with Barstool, not with a collective.
Yeah,
He moves the needle, man.
He's mad at one of the businesses that is a part of the collective, so he's going to make the deal directly, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's how these things work. He says he's talked to Sherrone Moore, and he's dealing with that directly. So he says that Sherrone's told him a name, like here's the guy. Or in the future, when Sherrone tells him, here's the guy you go, then that's the guy he'll go call and try and make the deal with. So, it's very classic Portnoy. And I hope it works out and that we can see how this does. But it does make you, again, I was just at SMU. I think there's like a bunch of 65, 75-year-old guys that are like, why is this we're happy it's legal, but
yeah.
Come on, man.
To sit there and say that Sherrone Moore is going to tell him who to go get, that's where we are in college football.
It's got to be how, like, Galileo felt when everybody else is like, no, you're right, the earth is round.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yep.
– no,
Yep.
I'm sorry about the whole heretic thing. We shouldn't have done that.
So Western Kentucky has these helmets. I initially thought that's some version of the Cincinnati Bengals, right? It's not. But that Paul, you even went on Twitter to beg, please send them one of these helmets to us to put in the studio.
Why did you think it was a Bengals helmet?
When I first saw it, I just, for some reason, with that black stripe, not the eyeballs, but the color reminded me of the Bengals. But it's not even that color of the Bengals, but it looked like that when I first saw it.
Okay, Emery, I want you to clip this and tweet it at WKU Football when we're done. I am willing to dress up as the Hilltopper, whatever you want me to do, so that we can put one of these on our gorgeous set here with the other helmets. We have lots of helmets. I now feel our set is incomplete without one of these.
Yeah, Garrett, can you do a wide shot of the studio?
Yeah, look, there's helmets.
There we go.
We've got helmets over there.
Yeah.
We've got helmets over here. There's helmets all over the place. But I feel like this will never be complete until we have this helmet.
You are just
look, I don't have shame. I'm fine. You guys tell me, you want me to body paint myself up red? I'm built like the Hilltopper anyway. Whatever it takes to get this helmet in the studio, within reason, I'll do.
All right. I'm not going to give you anything other than publicity. If we get the helmet, we'll put it up.
Yes.
We love it. We've got all of them.
We'd also have your coach and players on the show because we love doing that anyway, helmet or not. So, always been a big fan of the Hilltopper in general.
UT
My
Park
favorite
and let
mascot.
Paul Cook. Thank you very much, UT. Greg, what did you think of the helmet? Anything?
Well, don't clip this and send this to Western Kentucky Emory. Yeah, no, I mean, that's cool. They definitely have a crazy mascot, and that's portrayed well with those crazy-looking eyes on the side of the helmet. But, yeah, it doesn't really do much for me. It's not my favorite, but, yeah, it'd look cool in the studio. So if they want to contribute to our collection here, and I always have a permanent presence in the studio, then, yeah, by all means, send Paul your goods, and we'll pay you back somehow.
You know why they're called the Hilltoppers?
Because they're on the top of a hill?
Yep, sit at the top of a hill, 232 feet above the Barron River flowing through Western Kentucky's home city of Bowling Green. So there we are with that. So Western Kentucky, if you look at the mascot, he's got those eyes. That's kind of what they're doing here. Well done. Good luck. Have fun. Man, they threw for a lot of yards when who was the quarterback, Craig, that won the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award? You remember?
Bailey Zappi.
Yep, Bailey Zappi was fantastic to watch. So thank you to Paul for bringing up
which
the
was
helmet.
the offense ran by Zach Kitley, who's at Texas Tech, and that's where they put up all those big numbers with Bailey Zappi, and that's what I'm sure attracted Joey McGuire, along with the Texas connections and all that, but that type of offense. So, yeah, that's where my knowledge of Western Kentucky mostly stems from.
I have been in the
Bailey Zappi currently on the Chiefs practice squad, actually.
What's that?
He's with the Chiefs right now on the practice squad.
I have been in the chat for just a couple of seconds here and there. I wanted to respond to Katie Rader when we mentioned Texas Beef House and their live auction. Oh, by the way, it goes until 6 o'clock tonight. You have 2.5 hours left for that. And I went in there and made a bid on a couple of Wagyu ribeyes. He said, would you mind asking Samantha Duvall about having some of those packages in the live auction as mini packages? In other words, a combination of a few things. They have a little bit of that when it comes to a kind of a 3 different types of meat product, beef for Mexican type of meals. But Samantha said they tried that, and the reaction from most of the people was that they would rather just have everything singularly. Now, they have ground beef with hamburger patties too, but I wanted Katie Rader to let you know I did ask her about that, and they're having a live auction that goes on at this particular time. All right, now, we'll hear from Travis Hines. He'll join us. Also today, Ahmad Dixon, former Baylor safety. He is being inducted in high school, his old high school, Midway High School, just south of the part of Waco, and also being a part of that Big 12, the celebration at the end of the year, when Baylor will celebrate their Big 12 championships in 2013 and also 14. If you haven't, please click the like and subscribe button. Appreciate you doing that. Garrett Ross, Emery Winter, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak, and this is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Robinson, Texas. My dentist is Dr. Steve Childress, and thank goodness he is. Because had I not just finally said, hey, I'm going to come see you, I needed a new dentist because the one I had been using was no longer available because of an illness, and everything has worked out since then. But so I went to Steve Childress, and he was fantastic. I just felt comfortable with him, and he kind of told me, he looked around, he goes, hey, there's some things here we got to fix. And sure enough, let's say the 4 or 5 things he said was going to happen, they started to happen. And he fixed them, or he at least solved them for now. And whether it's a decay of this tooth or this, he goes, this one's coming out. All of what he said to me happened, and he has also allowed me now to be ahead of the curve when it comes to dental hygiene rather than playing catch up. And everybody, and maybe it's just you, that when you don't do the proper dental hygiene and not just brushing your teeth, and you know there's something wrong, then you don't want to go to the dentist because you know they're probably going to have to put a needle in your jaw. Don't do that. Don't delay. Dr. Steve Childress, Robinson, Texas, Stonewood Dental.
Get ready for Jeep Adventure Days at Allen Samuels in Waco. Right now, drive away in a brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe or a Wrangler 4xe with an unbeatable 0% financing for 72 months. Looking for a Wagoneer? We've got you covered with 3.9% for 72 months on all Wagoneers. First responders get an extra $500 off. Hurry in. Don't miss these incredible offers only at Allen Samuels in Waco. Your friend in the car business.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Travis Hines, Des Moines Register, covering Iowa State 4-0. Top 20 team, Matt Campbell, winningest coach in Iowa State football history. They just keep going about their business. They host Baylor on Saturday evening, and Travis joins us on 365 Sports. Travis, thanks for your call and time. How would you describe, and with the words methodical, efficient, how would you describe the identity of Iowa State football this year?
I think methodical and efficient works. The word I would use would be workmanlike. I mean, they have been very good, not overly impressive, certainly not incredibly dynamic or dominant, but they have taken care of business week in and week out. I mean, they were down 13-0 in Iowa City in week 2 and came back to win, demolish Arkansas State, take care of Houston. It's been a very workmanlike. I think they've just done their job week in and week out. And when you look at who they are, the schedule that they have in front of them, that can take them pretty far.
Travis, this team, for the most part, played all together last year. Now, like you said, they have not been spectacular yet. But does that maybe bode well for that coming? Because they do have such ridiculously good continuity on this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, are they going to have a breakout at running back? Like, that's the biggest thing offensively, because we know how good Rocco Becht is. We know how good the wide receiver tandem of Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel are. Like, those guys are dynamic. What we don't know is, do they have a true weapon at running back? And right now the answer has been no. They've been able to be efficient and productive by committee, but so far we haven't seen what's been a hallmark of Matt Campbell's best teams at Iowa State, and even going back to Toledo, with that dynamic running back like a Breece Hall or a David Montgomery, who now we see highlights of every Sunday. So that is the big question for the offense. And if that doesn't materialize, can the passing game continue to lead the way in a way that it really hasn't in Campbell's tenure, even when Brock Purdy was here, because you had David Montgomery and you had Breece Hall. So that'll be the big question offensively. On the other side, I think it's workmanlike, where you've seen coordinator John Haycock have some of the nation's elite defenses year in and year out. And I don't know that they have a star on that side of the ball like they have, whether it was a Mike Rose or a Will McDonald in years past, but they do have a lot of really good all Big 12 caliber players that are playing really good football right now.
You mentioned part of, I think, probably what the answer is with the run game not quite being what it needs to be. But I was sitting there glancing at that scoreboard last week, and it was 3-0, and it was 3-0, and it was 3-0. It was 3-0 at halftime. How much of that was Houston, as bad as they might be, have a pretty good defense, and how much of that was Iowa State, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think you certainly have to give Houston credit, but I do think Iowa State's offense just looked a little bit disjointed, and when they're not able to establish the running game, I think sometimes they look for an identity that isn't there. I mean, and that's part of the problem, I think, for them with that passing game leading the way, is if Rocco Becht's not having a great day, and he was good against Houston but not great, he missed some throws. When that happens and you're throwing on first down pretty consistently, you get behind the sticks and things kind of spiral on you a little bit. And I think that's what you saw in the first half from Iowa State before they kind of figured it out in the second half. So I think it was a clunker of a day a little bit for that offense, but I do think Houston's defense, is probably better than we give them credit for, because the offense is struggling, shall we say.
It's very nice of you to put it that way.
You were very methodical the way you answered that question. We preach. Travis, they gave up 171 yards rushing to Houston. They have only allowed like 102.5 yards per game passing. Have they played anybody that's tested their secondary?
Not in a meaningful way. I mean, Houston really could not throw the ball at all. They were moving two quarterbacks in, one, I think, through one pass in the entire game. You know, they played the only other high major team that they played, or Power 4 team they played, is Iowa, and obviously we know the deficiencies that the Hawkeyes have through the air. But I would say, while they maybe haven't been tested at that elite level yet, I do think when you look at the guys that they have in the secondary, starting with the safeties of Bo Freeler, Malik Verdun, and Jeremiah Cooper, those are all Big 12 caliber safeties. Like, that defensive secondary is going to be very good. Now, they don't have TJ Tampa at corner, who's now playing for the Ravens, like they did last year, but they have three guys that they're very high on playing corner that they're rotating. So I'm not really concerned about that secondary, just because I do think the talent is there and the experience is there, that you kind of know what you're getting, even if those guys have not had, the full-on aerial attack that they'll probably see at times throughout this year.
What do you think is the thing that Baylor does that Iowa State will have the hardest time with?
Oh, good question. I mean, I think for Iowa State, the big question is, I would imagine this is going to be a desperate Baylor team. I think desperate teams are dangerous teams, and Iowa State has a lot to play for. I mean, there is a lot of hype about this game, but it's not really about Baylor. It's about Iowa State being 4-0, trying to get to 5-0. It's a night game. People are going a little bonkers for this whiteout in the stands and with Iowa State's new uniforms. There's, I think, a lot of pressure building for Iowa State, and when you couple that with a team, that has lost close games the last 2 weeks, that has a coach, I think, that's probably under pressure there in Waco, they're going to come out swinging. And then the question, I think, for Iowa State, are they going to be able to steady themselves and, kind of shrug off the pomp and circumstance of the day and get down to playing that workman-like football that's been successful for them this year?
So there's a handful of teams, because it's so early. We're just entering the third week of conference play. But Iowa State, one of a handful of teams that's either 1-0 or 2-0 at this point. Obviously, a lot of changes with 4 new teams coming in and still kind of getting to know the 4 from last year. What have been your impressions on the early Big 12 in its new incarnation?
Incredibly wide open. I mean, I think I'm not breaking news there, but it just seems there's a lot of probably very good, but maybe not great teams. And then there's some teams in the middle that, if you can project out some growth throughout the year, that can probably join them in really contending at the top of the league. And I think when you take out the likes of Texas and Oklahoma, that's obviously going to clear the decks a little bit for teams to be able to compete at the highest level within the league. And it's probably going to take a few years to shake out the hierarchy of what this looks like going forward. But, I think, again, there's a lot of good teams. I don't think we've seen a great team emerge yet. And I don't know that we will, but I do think it is going to be a free-for-all once we get through October into November with, I don't know if it'll be half the league, but it wouldn't shock me if it's something close to that, with a legitimate hope and path to getting to Arlington.
Jack Trice Stadium is underrated. Unless you've been there, you understand it, and you've been there a lot, Travis. I've been there. The tailgating is first class. It's unbelievable, and yet the crowd is locked in, as you would expect. And so kind of explain, do they have a home field advantage at that stadium?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's not an overwhelmingly huge venue like going to a Horseshoe or a Big House or, even Oklahoma or Texas, but, that's 65,000 strong. They're there before kickoff. They are well lubricated by the 6:30 tip-off on Saturday night. Again, and, they're loud and they're rowdy. It is, without a doubt, a home field advantage. It's probably not, among the elite in college football, but I do think it is a sneaky tough place to play because the fans are smart, they're engaged, and, they've always got something to prove. Iowa State football is not exactly a premier program over the history of college football, and I think, especially in the new Big 12, Iowa State and their fans want to be looked at as a team that can ascend that hierarchy, and I think they sense right now is their chance to go and seize that. So I think Saturday will be pretty electric at Jack Trice Stadium.
Travis, you said you're not, we don't know in the league how it's going to shake out, but if you compare Iowa State to everybody else that's played so far, outside of BYU, have they not been the most consistent?
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, the big question is how much of it's Iowa State and how much of it is a schedule that seems, soft, might be overstating it a little bit. I mean, I think going into Iowa City, playing from behind and winning is a big win, whether or not Iowa proves to be mediocre or not. And then the other three games, I don't think you get too excited about with the two lower tier teams and then Houston on Saturday. But you got to go win those games, right? Like it's not a given that you go and win those games. We see scores all across the country and across the Big 12 with those upsets. So I do think Iowa State has been incredibly consistent. And I think in a league without a dominant team, consistency is probably going to be the key to wrapping up a spot in the Big 12 title game and potentially winning it.
There have been other coaches that have had some success at Iowa State, and now Matt Campbell, the all-time winningest coach there for the Cyclones. Have they ever had a stretch like they're in right now? There was the one blip. They played for a Big 12 title. They've had 6 of 7 years with a winning season. They're on their way to having now 7 of 8.
No, I mean, this is the golden era of Iowa State football, and it's not even close. I mean, again, this is a program that did not have a bowl victory until the year 2000. You heard that correctly, did not have a bowl victory until the year 2000. Campbell took over a program that I think had 3 Big 12 victories in the 2 years prior, or in the 3 years prior to his arrival. This is, to not sugarcoat it, it was a bottom basement football program for the vast majority of its 100 years before Matt Campbell got there. And for a lot of different reasons, they've elevated now to a place where they played for a Big 12 title in 2020. They won the Fiesta Bowl that year. It was their first appearance in a New Year's Six Bowl. Obviously, 2021, they got to a bowl game, but with everybody back from that 20 team, it was disappointing. But it still ranks as probably one of the 15 or 20 best seasons in Iowa State history. And now you're seeing a huge ramp back up after a disappointing 2022. I mean, these are the good old days for Iowa State football right now, without a doubt.
Travis Hines with us from the Des Moines Register on 365 Sports. You mentioned that Baylor, obviously, backed against the wall. A couple of devastating losses. One, especially in Boulder. Then last week they started to tease the fan base, and then they couldn't finish. Dave Aranda on the hot seat. What do you see? I'm not sure how often you've watched them, but what do you see whenever you have?
Yeah, I mean, watching that Baylor BYU game last week from my hotel room in Houston, I was impressed that they were able to fight back, because you lose that game like they did in Boulder, and then you're down, 21-0 in the first quarter to BYU. It would have been pretty easy to fold up shop. And I know, saying that the team tried hard is not exactly going to endear anybody to the fan base, but, it's not always a given. That could have gone the other way. So I think it is important that a team has not given up or, is refusing to give up. And so I think that was impressive. And, the question will be is, can they sustain that? And can they try to pull a little bit of momentum there? And this is a really tough spot for them. They're going against a good team on the road at night in a game that means a lot to Iowa State. So this is a tough spot for Baylor, but if they're able to show some of that grit and toughness that I think you saw in the second half against BYU, I think there's no reason why, this is a game that it will be already over heading into the fourth quarter.
Travis, thank you for your time, man. Appreciate it. Always great to have you on. Des Moines Register, Travis Hines with us on 365 Sports. As an old Big 8 guy with Nebraska and Oklahoma and the Kansas schools and Iowa State, Colorado, Missouri, etc. Iowa State used to be, like they used to struggle. They'd have an occasional wow moment. They won 9 games in 2020. They won 9 games in 2000. They have never won double-digit games in a season. I don't know how many other programs have not, but I bring that up because they're 4-0. They have a long way to go. Who knows who they are once they start to get, if it's tested this week by maybe Baylor plays a much better game, or if it's on the road somewhere. But what he has done, as he said, is the golden age of Iowa State football. Earl Bruce has been there. Dan McCarney had some good years there with Iowa State. But they did not play in a bowl game, as he mentioned, win one until 2000. And there were decades where they didn't go to a bowl game. Now, there weren't as many as there are now, so this is why Iowa State fans love what they have in Matt Campbell.
Well, I say if they don't win 10 regular season games, then they really missed a huge opportunity because I don't see any reason why they shouldn't win 10 regular season games. Who's beating them in these games that you feel like right now? So they're what? They're 4-0 right now?
Yeah,
right?
Baylor.
Hold on. Let me do it. Baylor. So what do you
Well,
feel
that
about
was
that
obvious.
game?
Yeah.
They're
okay.
not beating – I mean, they're not worried about losing to Baylor, right? I mean, I think Baylor could beat them if they're not careful, but I don't think they're not going to be not careful. Like,
Okay.
I think that they're a team. So 5-0, right? At West Virginia, who the hell knows with the Mountaineers? But that's not an unwinnable game. Like, they can win that game.
That's not one of those that I go, oh. Yeah,
I mean, not anymore.
No
This
game
is
or
not
yeah.
Morgantown from 2 or 3 years ago when it still had this mystique of like, you know, and especially for us seeing so many teams roll in there and get beat that were pretty good teams. I don't feel like it's that way as much anymore, but it's a Saturday night game. They'll be probably a top 25 team still. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe the Mountaineers get geared up for that. At home against UCF, feel like you win that game. At home against Texas Tech, feel like you can win that game.
Yeah.
At Kansas, think you can win that game. Home against Cincinnati, you can win that game. Now then, at the very end, it gets interesting because you're at Utah, and then you welcome in Kansas State. If Cam Rising's not playing by then like, I mean, what gangrenous like injury did he get from the water cooler? I mean, that has to be studied. How a finger injury could keep you out for like 12 weeks. But that, and then K-State hosting them. So let's say even if they aren't favored in those last two games, let's say they don't lose those. You should still be 10-0 going into those, very likely. And if not, you're looking at like 9 and something, and you win one of those two games. So I think if you don't win 10 games, like something went wrong because I don't feel like there's 3 losses guaranteed anywhere on this schedule.
Well, I agree with you, but at West Virginia, still that
Sure.
and they may burp one game.
But to win 10 games, you have to go
They
win
have
games like
if
that.
there's a schedule set up for them, if they just kind of stay the course, this is a year that they have a chance to go and pop that they've never done before. The 9 wins a couple of different times, including that 2020 team when they played for the Big 12 title. Thanks to Travis Hines. He covers Iowa State. We'll eventually get to Iowa State. With that men's basketball team, man, they've loaded up again after having one heck of a year. It's interesting how you look at a schedule now compared to even 2 weeks ago and how it can change because of what's happened over the last couple of weeks. But Baylor, 6:30 on Fox, Saturday night in Ames, Iowa.
I'll tell you whose schedule looks a lot different is Kansas's. Their schedule looks way different now that they're in the hole that they've dug for themselves at 1-4. Obviously, we didn't know that Illinois would be quite as good maybe as they are, especially going there. I mean, that was always a coin flip game to me, and it was a coin flip. They only lost by 6 there. They lost by 3 to UNLV. I mean, UNLV's obviously a good team, but you've dropped your couple Big 12 games now to West Virginia and TCU. So now you go to Tempe this weekend, which I'd say Arizona State has to be slight favorites in that one, and I would pick Arizona State in that game. But that's not an unwinnable game. But still, they're going to be underdogs, you would think. You're going to be favored against Houston because everybody's going to be favored against Houston. So there's win number 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. But at K-State, home against Iowa State, at BYU, home against Colorado, and then at Baylor. Baylor's like the whatever in every single one of these scenarios now. But those 4 games at K-State, Iowa State at home, at BYU versus Colorado, like that looks a lot different than it did at the start of the season because K-State and Iowa State look like they typically look, but Provo's like the hardest home field advantage now in the entire conference. I think the argument is being made and certainly could be confirmed by some. And then Colorado's obviously a much different game than you thought at the start of the season because they actually look like they're going to be good and be good for the long haul. So, yeah, I think KU's schedule looks a bit more daunting than it maybe did originally because that was actually, I think, something you kind of thought could play in their favor potentially, but not the case. They're looking at scratching and clawing to make a bowl game at this point, especially if they lose to Arizona State.
And with the Big 12 at the end of this weekend, we could go, oh, okay, well, that's now a little bit more favorable. And who knows, again, from week to week. But appreciate Travis. Iowa State right now, 4-0, top 20 team. Nick Jose, our good friend, running that media relations department in Ames, Iowa. In the 4 o'clock hour, Ahmad Dixon will join us. Man, we got a lot of things to catch up on with him. Haven't talked to him.
He was one of Nick Joseph's favorites.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we can't wait to bring up
I think that's a week-to-week.
Who are you more intimidated by, your father or Phil Bennett? That was a big man. He's a big man, So we'll have that. We look forward to the pod, the Big 12 South with Tech, TCU, Oklahoma State, Baylor. Craig's off the radar. And then again, we have Ralph Russo, Mickey Spagnola, Paul's Top 5. All of that coming up today on 365 Sports. The Baylor alumni fan engagement. Baylor's on the road against Iowa State in Ames. If you want to do a watch party, and it's still not too late to get the word out, whether you're in Waco or obviously somewhere else. Maybe you're not that far from Ames, or maybe you're in Kansas City, or maybe you're in Denver. We have seen where a lot of the alumni are. Houston, Dallas, of course, massive. Even L.A. and Washington, D.C., among others. Salt Lake City's a big place. So if you want to put together a watch party where you live when Baylor plays, and of course it's not just with football, but when they play football, get in touch with Doug Furch and Paul Thorpe at the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement Department at Baylor University. And when they're home, they, of course, have their tailgate set up on what is across the pedestrian bridge and so much more. They travel with the team and have opportunities for fans who make those trips to have some events at the hotel, sending off the team wherever they might go. It's the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement. Contact Paul and Doug, Paul Thorpe, Doug Furch at Baylor University, the Fan Engagement Department.
It's time to score big savings at the Kickoff to Savings event on GMC trucks at Richard Carr GMC. Take the winning drive with the Texas Truck MVP. GMC Sierra is the best truck on the road. Save $9,000 on 2024 GMC Sierra SLT models in stock with 2010 or newer approved trade-in. Plus, qualified buyers get 1.9% financing and no payments for 90 days. See dealer for details. Save big and score your deal at the Kickoff to Savings event at Richard Carr GMC.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Josh Satterfield and John Maddox understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? When you invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Josh Satterfield, John Maddox, and Sean Carter, they will provide their time and experience to help you reach your goals. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Josh Satterfield and Sean Carter on Wycon Road off Bagby, and John Maddox on Sapphire Boulevard in Hewitt. Proud sponsors of Midway Panthers football. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Membership SIPC.
El Conquistador Restaurants are a very proud sponsor of the Midway Panthers, have been owned and operated by the Gonzalez family since 1969. El Conquistador is recognized annually as a local favorite with their fast and friendly service. Dine in or order takeout and enjoy your favorite Tex-Mex items as well as several traditional menu items. Catering is also available with 3 locations to serve you: Waco, Belmead, and Hillsboro. The Gonzalez family thanks you in Waco and the surrounding area for your continued support of 55 years in business. Go Panthers!
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Containing only 95 calories and 2.6 carbs.
Garrett Ross running the mothership. Emery Winter is already working on what we do every night at 10:30 on the CW. 365 Sports Tonight. 4 segments, usually about 12 minutes each, whether they are interviews that we have during the show or segments and discussion on various topics in college football. So appreciate the CW every weeknight at 10:30 here on 365 Sports. And waiting for Ahmad to appear on the link. We'll see if that works here in just a second. All right. By the way, speaking of Ahmad Dixon showing up and getting him on the air, later in the year with the TCU game, we've discussed this. Baylor's going to honor the Big 12 championship teams of 2013 and 14. I look forward to that. I really do. I look forward to that. There's a lot of young men that won back-to-back Big 12 titles that have not had that opportunity, and they had to wait for some things legally to clear too. But it'd be great. I look forward to seeing a ton of those guys come back.
Yeah, I can't wait for it either. I think it's going to be really a cool thing, and I'm also here for the awkwardness of it. So, yeah. Are we frozen, Garrett?
Yes, I'm trying to fix this.
Okay.
So does that also maybe why we can't get Ahmad on?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me go over there with you.
You want to tap dance here?
Yeah, yeah.
Are we on? Okay, all right. 365. We haven't had that happen in forever with the screen that we have that is obviously right now something we're trying to deal with technically. We appreciate those of you in the chat room. Some of you say, hey, by the way, what's going on with this? We can hear you. That's good. Okay, Scotty B, at least you could hear us, so thank you for that. Scotty B, Ahmad is 2 years ahead of me in high school. That means that you're pretty young, and we knew that. Scotty B, I've talked to you and met you before. Scotty B, let's go, Ahmad. Dustin, I saw a couple of notes about how, Dustin, are you talking about Dana Holgerson at West Virginia or Dana Holgerson at Houston in the chat room? Barry Crawford, same for KU, Oklahoma State. Get everyone bowl eligible. The tour doesn't stop in Lawrence. We'll come back. This is 365 Sports.
It's time to score big savings at the Kickoff to Savings event on GMC trucks at Richard Carr GMC. Take the winning drive with the Texas Truck MVP. GMC Sierra is the best truck on the road. Save $9,000 on 2024 GMC Sierra SLT models in stock with 2010 or newer approved trade-in. Plus, qualified buyers get 1.9% financing and no payments for 90 days. See dealer for details. Save big and score your deal at the Kickoff to Savings event at Richard Carr GMC.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Josh Satterfield and John Maddox understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? When you invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Josh Satterfield, John Maddox, and Sean Carter, they will provide their time and experience to help you reach your goals. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement.
Can't hear you. There we go.
Student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Containing only 95 calories and 2.6 carbs.
All right, we're back. We had a glitch, a gremlin. Garrett, Emery, and Paul working feverishly to get us back on the air, and we are joined by Ahmad Dixon, former Midway and Baylor star, with us on 365 Sports. My God, how you been?
I've been good, man. I've been blessed. Can't complain. How about yourself?
Doing well. This is a pretty big fall for you. You're going to be inducted into the Midway Athletics Hall of Fame with the relay team tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. And then also the 2013 and 14 Baylor Big 12 championship teams will be honored in that game against TCU. It's a pretty busy fall for you.
Yeah, man. Shout out to those guys that ran on that relay with me in high school. Also, shout out to the Baylor Bears as well and all of those guys. But, yeah, man, it's a pretty big milestone for me. That's something that I worked really hard to accomplish.
Ahmad, first of all, what leg were you on that relay team?
I was the third leg.
Third. Okay.
Yes,
all
sir.
right. Okay, who was the rest of the relay team, and how did it go?
So first leg, John Howard. Second leg was Matthew Davis. Fourth leg was Jonathan Cornish. So how that race goes, first leg, John Howard comes out and he does not so good of a job as he normally does. He comes out, and I'm going to just say it like this. By the time he passes off the baton, we're in last place. And so Matt Davis, as he gets the baton, he comes out and he's blazing. He gets on that back stretch and he catches us up all the way. I believe he gets us to like second place, if I'm not mistaken. And by the time he made it to the back stretch, he had died out. He had caught us back up. So he gets it to me. I believe we're in like fourth or fifth. We fall back to like fourth or fifth. And so as the race is going, I'm running a strong leg. I jump us out to like second or third place on the back stretch. And I kept my pace the whole way around. By the time we got to the home stretch, I just kicked it in another gear, got us in the first. And I passed it off to Jonathan Cornish. He ran a good leg, but he had a pretty good. Lancaster had a pretty good fourth leg, a guy by the name of Howard Shepard. He, if I'm not mistaken, he went on to go to Louisville and run track, but he ended up catching Jonathan Cornish on like the last 10 meters or something like that, and we ended up winning the race by literally 100th of a second, just by a lean. And it was a very big deal because at that time Lancaster had won the 4x4 if I'm not mistaken, about 4 or 5 times in a row at that point. So it was kind of understood that they were going to win the mile relay at that time. And with us beating them in that mile relay, and they had just came off of back-to-back state championships in track. So as far as winning the whole meet. And so with them coming in second to us, they ended up losing, and we ended up breaking their streak of all of the historical things that they did, and then the history started rolling in for Midway from then on.
All right, so you've always had facial hair. I haven't seen you in a while. You've got it even more of a level. Is that just like you love that look, and how comfortable is it for you?
Yeah, I like it. So I guess you can say my grown man. It shows a different side of me, my growth, my maturity. Just a difference. A lot has changed with me, and so I mean, I just embrace the new look, the different look. Yeah.
All right, you brought this up, your growth and maturity. Hey, everybody goes through parts in life when sometimes it's hard living. Sometimes you learn from it, sometimes you don't. And you went through some things in your life. You have.
Yeah.
When did it change for you? When did you start to realize the clock was ticking?
I mean, far as I would say for football, it happened after I had actually got cut out the NFL. I realized so many things at time of being home. So for football, it was right when I was done with the NFL. So that was like 2016, 2016, 17, one of those. But far as life go, honestly, man, I would say about 2.5, 3 years from ago. So yeah, it's a new journey for me, but I'm loving it. I mean, I'm embracing it. I've learned a lot about myself. I've grown a lot, and I've grown to learn and understand a lot of situations differently than I did before. So.
Ahmad, you played. Baylor goes to play at Ames this week. I'm curious your experiences when you guys went up there to play at Ames. It is even when they haven't been good, it's still a really hard place to play there. And you guys, one of the games that kind of turned around your season was a loss there. The one year where you guys lost a game where you really felt you should have won, and it kind of put you behind the 8 ball. What are your memories of playing games at Ames, Iowa?
It's always tough, always. I mean, Iowa State, I would never say that they're a bad team. No team is ever a bad team. It's just every dog has his day, but they're always a tough opponent. They've always been a tough opponent. You just have to, when you go to Ames, Iowa, you have to weather the storm because it's going to be a storm. I mean, no matter what the situation is, they're a very hostile environment. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it's only, two colleges there, so they don't really have, that's really all they have is the Iowa Hawkeyes and Iowa State, Iowa State, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, it's a very hostile environment. I mean, when we went, we like you say, we fell short in that game, and I can honestly say that probably one of my worst. That I would say that I had one of my worst games in my career of football playing in Ames, Iowa. They're one of the few teams that play on grass fields still. It's like I say, very loud. It's an old stadium, so it doesn't really give you that vibe that will have you amped and ready to play. It's more of a dark, droggy type of feel in their stadium when you go there. It's like a dark cloud is almost over, and it's like when you walk out, it's almost as if like you have to tell yourself and get yourself going because most guys don't really want to play when you go to Ames, Iowa. The night before the stay in the hotel isn't very pleasant. I mean, it's just not a good place. So, I mean, the mindset and the mentality that you have to have playing in Ames, Iowa, it really matters. You have to stay focused, and you have to be able to respond when chaos hits.
Ahmad, what is the game with TCU this year when they honor the 13 and 14 Big 12 championship games mean to former players? Bryce Petty was on with us when they made that announcement. It's been a while. A lot has gone on since that time. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to some of the guys you've stayed in touch with?
It means a lot because, I mean, a lot of us, well, I can honestly say, yeah, majority of us, we didn't even know each other prior to coming to Baylor. So, I mean, it means a lot for all of us. Even the guys that were there before we actually won the Big 12 championship. Those guys like your Robert Griffins, your Kendall Wright. I mean, those guys, your Phil Taylors, those guys, Terrence Williams, those guys that laid the foundation. I mean, it means a lot for everybody, even the guys after. I mean, even the guys that are there now. I just can't even really put it into words how good that feels because, I mean, especially being a guy that's from Waco and seeing how we never, as a fan of Baylor wasn't very good at that time, and to see how we turned things around in that time period and got the wins and got the championships and got all of that national notoriety. I mean, it's a big deal for us. I mean, even off the field, like I said, we built the brotherhood, and majority of us all stay in contact with each other. A lot of guys have been in guys' weddings and all of that type of stuff. Guys still keep in contact with guys' families, all of that. I mean, it's bigger than football. That championship is bigger than what it says. Just that Big 12 championship is bigger than that. That was. I mean, like I said, I can't even put it into words, but that was something that was very big for us.
Ahmad, what is it going to be to see Kaz Kazadi, Kendall Briles, Carlton Buckles wearing purple over there?
Oh, man. It's crazy because if you know, the incident that happened with Kaz when we went to TCU. So
way to go, Big 12. Way to go, Big 12. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you know about that incident, I mean, all of us as players, we all talk about that, we joke about it, but it's surreal to see how everything just transpired. Even to see Gary Patterson end up at Baylor and our guys end up at TCU, man, it's crazy. But I mean, I'm just happy to see that those guys are still going, that they're still helping young men change their lives and improve their lives. I mean. So a lot has, as you spoke of a while ago, a lot has transpired since all of that, and a lot of people have taken losses due to the situation that had transpired back then. And I'm just happy to see all of those guys they're still got the drive and they still have the determination to help people out.
I was really hoping Coach Patterson would still be here. On the staff when you came back in particular, because he did not care for you
at all,
or baby brother Orion Stewart either very much, did he?
Nah, not at all. I mean, but I never took it personal. I mean, that's why I never really spoke on the matter in the personal sense. I understand emotions flying high, we have a past history through recruiting. And if you even know that, you know how I was with that. So, I mean, we have a past history, but I never took it personal. I mean, even if he was there and I seen him, I would just shake his hand and laugh about the memories. To me, those are memories. Those are times that I can't get back. I can't rewind the hands of time and go back and revisit those moments. Yes, do I wish some of them could have went different? Yes, but I mean, those are memories. Those are things that I sit around and I laugh and joke about with my family and friends to this day.
What happened during recruiting with TCU?
So TCU was one of those schools that was coming after me very hard coming out of high school. But Gary Patterson had his way of introducing himself. So I'll just speak on this. I'll just say what happened. He came on the house visit to meet my mother and my father. And when he came in, we're sitting down at the table. He just slides out a box full of rings, of all the rings that he won. And he was like, "This is what you'll get if you come to TCU." And just the arrogance and the approach that he had, it just didn't really sit well with my parents because they were looking at it more so of this is the guy that'll be the influence in my son's life for the next following years. And they just didn't really like the vibe that he came with, his aura and his demeanor, how he came about the situation. So it caused caused some kind of conflict. And I had an older cousin that went to TCU by the name of Corey Grant. And him and Coach Patterson also didn't have the best of relationships. So it was kind of all of those things. But like I said, I never took it personal because it was things that I couldn't control. I couldn't control what type of person he was or how the situations went with him and my cousin. So it's just, it is what it is. But I mean, I wish him the best in the rest of his career, whatever he chooses to do as well.
What are you doing these days?
I just got into coaching. This is my first year coaching I'm coaching at a high school called Liberty High School in Las Vegas. I coach. I'm the freshman defensive coordinator, and I coach the DBs as well. And I do a little learning and growing with varsity staff as well. And so yeah, that's it. I'm stepping into that role now and trying to learn the game from a coach's standpoint versus a player's standpoint.
Who was tougher on you in life, your father or Phil Bennett?
To be honest with you, they each have their own pull that they had. As far as my father was more so just tough on me about making sure I stand on my principles and my morals as a man, to always be a man's man, to be my own man, to be myself, to not be a follower, to always be a leader, but also be willing and open to learn. That's what my father, that's what he was on. But Phil Bennett more so taught me how to deal with adversity when things are out of my control, when I don't have the best understanding in the situation, when I don't really know how to respond. Phil Bennett taught me a lot of that while dealing with him, because I mean, if you know Phil Bennett can go from 0 to 100 real quick, and and I can do that myself. So a lot of times I had to step back and realize that this is not only a grown man, but this is in a sense, my boss. This is my coach. This is my leader. So I have to take a step back and listen and learn and take and apply what he's trying to say. So I mean, Phil Bennett helped me learn how to just take a step back and analyze my responses in a lot of situations and not allow the situation to dictate my response.
Ahmad Dixon, former Midway High School, inducted to their Athletics Hall of Fame tomorrow night, and also former Baylor safety, with us on 365 Sports.
Ahmad, what are your thoughts on Baylor this year? And you know they struggled a little bit, but they look like they at times are like about to break through, and then they just don't close. What are your overall thoughts?
I believe we have a good team. I believe that Coach Aranda, I believe he has a good scheme. Do I feel we fit all of that? Not to a certain degree. But my opinion in that sense doesn't really matter. But I mean, I feel like we have a good team, and I feel like we just have to gel it, get it, just figure it out. And I mean, I know what it's like when you're coming in and you're trying to build a program. I was a part of one of those type of programs where you're trying to make your own stamp, and that's really what Coach Aranda is trying to do. He's trying to build his own identity, his own way about things that he's going to do it, and it's just conflicting with the players, not as in the players off the field sense, but the play calling is kind of just sometimes it'll hit, sometimes it'll miss, and it's just. But I truly believe that they'll figure it out. They'll get it gelled together, and it's just all about that chemistry, that camaraderie, and that having faith in the guy next to you to make the play, whether it is whatever the play is. Just you got to have faith in that guy next to you to make the play, and just do it. I just feel like they just need to get a little more chemistry, get a little more gel together, and get a little bit better understanding of what Coach Aranda wants, and the players also, and Coach Aranda know what type of players he have. I mean, I just feel like it'll take some time. It'll take some time, especially with everything that has happened with Baylor, and then you have the NIL rules and Baylor not really being a front runner of that type of recruiting and all of that type of stuff. It's a lot of things that work against the natural state of how Baylor does things. So, but like I said, I believe they'll get it together. They'll figure it out.
Well, the NIL thing's working now. As you know, they even have had a really nice class to 2025. But I get what you're saying. There were thoughts that maybe it was a little slow in pulling the trigger. People can argue about that for a while. Ahmad, you said it will take some time. It took some time for some former players that were a part of that team that won Big 12 titles and even after that because of a lot of things, bad things, and sometimes maybe things that were over-exaggerated. But bad things happen. Did you stick with Baylor through all that time? Did you have your feelings hurt? Obviously, people had their feelings hurt. What was that like for you and your former players?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys' feelings are hurt. Just due to the fact of you have so many guys that's all that they had was Baylor University. A lot of guys didn't have nothing outside of that. That was like I say, we built a brotherhood. So once that brotherhood, that house that we built was torn down, a lot of guys didn't know where to go. A lot of guys didn't know where to turn. And unfortunately, we lost a few brothers along the way just due to the pressures and the misunderstanding and just not knowing how to go about life without football. And that's one thing that Coach Browse did do for a lot of guys. He was that figure to a lot of guys. A lot of guys didn't have father figures on our team. A lot of guys didn't come from stable backgrounds, stable homes, and all of that kind of stuff. So what we built as a brotherhood really, and that's what I was saying earlier, I can't really put it into words. It means so much. And with the relationship of the past and with Baylor, it's a bittersweet feeling. I'm glad that Baylor got over the hump that now that they can move forward. But the bitter feeling is that a great man that has, he's an upstanding citizen, an upstanding father, son, husband, all of that. He has to deal with the ridicule of the actions of guys that range from 18 to 22, 23 years old. And that's the bitter feeling about all of that, is because he still has to live with that while we're going on with our lives. We're still moving forward. We're still able to get opportunities and different things while he has to suffer about that.
Do you look back at that time on campus when a lot of things were going on and wish maybe you had said something differently or stepped in? And you had some incidents yourself, but do you wish now sometimes that somebody would have stepped up and said something?
Yeah, that's something that's crazy because we talk about that, and that's things that your Power 5 conferences like your Alabamas, those big schools, they have guys that have been here before that are coming back to the school to talk to the athletes and talk to people and give them the information, the proper tools that you need to survive, to understand why you're living that type of lifestyle. And that's the thing that a lot of people really don't understand, that you don't really know what to expect when you get into that life. That world of being a star athlete or a celebrity, whatever you want to call it, when you get put on that pedestal, a lot of people don't know how to deal with the good and the bad that comes with that. And that's when you end up with the results of the things that happen with us. But I truly believe if we would have had some older guys that had already been through this, that were there with us to help groom us and guide us, I truly believe that a lot of things wouldn't have happened the way that they happened. But like I said, we were just a bunch of young kids on a high on life, and just enjoying it and not really thinking about the consequences, not really worried about what tomorrow brought. All we cared about was just having fun and enjoying today. And I can honestly say that was the mindset of, I would say 90% of the team. Just live for today and enjoy it.
Ahmad, we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. We broadcast Midway football, as you know. We'll be there for that. Good luck with that. It'll be great to see you when you get back in town for TCU and see a lot of the faces that we haven't seen in quite some time. It is time. And it's great that it's going to happen. And look forward to it. We appreciate your time, my friend.
All righty. Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Take
Ahmad
care.
Dixon with us, former Baylor safety, Midway Hall of Famer, starting officially after tomorrow night on 365 Sports. When we come back, a Big 12 pod. Craig's off the radar. We're back right here, 365 Sports, with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. Don Chimador and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center, in between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco. 48-foot walk-in humidor. On the back wall, they have the Texas brand of cigars that has been incredibly popular. And then inside the 48-foot walk-in humidor, including that wall, are the absolute best brands of cigars in the world. From Cohiba, Padron, Ashton, Macanudo, Rocky Patel, Artur Fuente, Romeo and Julieta, My Father, and on and on. If you smoke pipes or know somebody that does and you're looking for a gift when it comes to that, they have a selection of pipes too. And I told you the story about the couple that listened to what I've said about Don's, came down, they had a pipe, they got it fixed, and they were so happy they also bought yet another pipe for them to go back to Dallas with. And they said they would be back, and I'm sure they have. Also, they have fresh coffee beans, Vita Dreams. It's a gummy. You can take it at night. You kind of get an idea of what you need. If you're one of those that, man, you're just constantly losing sleep for whatever reason, Vita Dreams can help you out so you can get that extra 30 minutes to an hour and not toss and turn. It is Cheyenne and Josh at Don Chimador in the Town West Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers, everybody, the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Here is the South, the Big 12 South Pod with Tech, TCU, Oklahoma State, Baylor. Thank you for your time every day, 365 Sports, and we'll start with Texas Tech. After that near disastrous loss to Abilene Christian, there were some red flags. Then they got smoked in Pullman by Washington State. They bounced back to Mall, North Texas, had the win against Arizona State, had the shootout win against Cincinnati. They're 4-1, and they're on the road in Tucson against Arizona. And we start with Texas Tech. Paul?
Yeah, I think this one could have, probably going to have a lot of points scored in it. These are two pretty good offenses here. I'm curious to see Tech go win on the road against a good team. They've got to start doing that. They've got to start doing it consistently. Lubbock is a great place for them to play, but you can't play all 12 there, and they've improved on that over the last couple of years, but this is a big opportunity to do that. I don't think the defense is going to be all of a sudden better, but if they can get some red zone stops, and then like at the end of the game the other day, Cincinnati scored with 4 minutes left and they didn't let him score again. So do those in key spots and the team's going to be a lot better. You're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, a lot of what you said is valid. They didn't let them score at the very end because Cincinnati missed a field goal to tie the game. They should have made that to send it to overtime. But then again, should they have made a 51-yard field goal in college? Probably not. That's not very often. So fortunately for Tech, that was a tough kick, and it was missed, and they were able to hold on to that victory, but not in any way taking that away from them. What has been in their control, they've done pretty well with. I think Baron Morton's getting better. I think that Taj Brooks is obviously awesome and just continues to do his thing. As it's almost maddening to watch from the other side. It's like, tackle a guy, and he just keeps breaking tackles and making guys miss, and he's just a real joy, and getting him back this year was a huge feather in the cap of Joey McGuire and company. But to have Baron Morton coming along and progressing is obviously a great sign. They've got a top, I think it's 15, if not 10 total offense in the country. So they're zooming on that side of the football, and I think feeling pretty good about the state of things. Can always get better, of course, but they're in a good spot there. Defensively, they're playing a lot of young guys, and that's kind of the thing you're hanging your cap on is, it's not always pretty and it's not always good, but it's going to be there eventually if all these young guys keep getting experience, and then they're around for another year, 2 years, and eventually this thing will really be moving on that side of the football as well. But there are definitely question marks still on that side of the football. And you gave up 41 to Cincinnati. Like, they gave up 44, but you also gave up 41. And I think that both teams can still feel okay about that, because if you're Cincinnati, you went into Lubbock and you put 41 on them and had a chance to tie it and send it to overtime at the end without two of your better running backs for a majority of that game. So I don't know if the game plays out differently if they have, Kiner in particular, but Texas Tech knocked him out of the game. Like, that's part of the game. And so what a shootout and what a great win for Texas Tech. But like Paul said, they've got to go do it on the road now. They played 5 games, 4 of them at home. The one game they played on the road, they lost to Washington State pretty convincingly. So I'm not saying anything that they're not saying. Joey McGuire said it throughout the offseason. They've got to win on the road to be the program they want to be. So here's a great test. Arizona's slightly favored. I think this is a toss-up game. And I'm just very curious on whether Tech is going to be like the next team to give up 300 yards receiving to Teterow and McMillan, or if they're going to, be able to limit that and not let Fafita and T-Mac, get them into a shootout that they're not able to win. But they feel comfortable in shootouts, that's for sure. They score a lot of points.
Yeah, they've scored 52, 66, 30, and 44. Of course, they did not play well, and Washington State thumped them pretty good. A 10 o'clock kick.
Yeah,
10
that's
o'clock
a huge
kick
thing
in
here.
Tucson. And you really wonder, you hear about like teams on the West Coast or BYU moving, coming east and playing at a different time. That's late in the day on Fox, though. So it's going to be a great day. Big 12, Arizona hosting Texas Tech.
I think you really love what you've gotten from Josh Kelly. He's been a terrific pickup for you. He's leading the way for you. Coy Eakin's getting better as well. Caleb Douglas, they've got a really nice receiving core. Obviously, they're scoring a lot of points. You got Brooks, you got Morton getting better as he gets more mature and older and experienced. So, yeah, they feel comfortable in a shootout, but the defense has to keep coming along. And I do wonder, just in terms of, as much as Jeff Long was a fraud running the College Football Playoff Committee in the early days because they were clearly throwing crap at the wall to justify their selections, like body clocks, if you want to rewind to that point in time.
Yeah.
That wasn't a valid reason to keep teams out of the playoff, which is what the kind of crap they tried to no, 12 teams is too much. That's part of the reason why we needed 12 teams, because that kind of gatekeeping BS that was going on from the very get-go in the College Football Playoff. Anyways, that wasn't valid for those reasons. It's a valid thing to say in this game when Tech is playing 10 o'clock at night. That's going to screw up your body clock. So I wonder to what degree it does. I don't think it should be the difference in them winning or losing per se, but it is an interesting, part of this game is just how late this thing kicks off.
What would be harder, to go play a game at a different time zone later or to go play a game at a different time zone, to me, earlier? I would think it would be heading east would be more difficult. I
say all coaches always say the same thing. They want to get up and play football.
Yeah.
They don't want to sit around in
Dave
the hotel.
Aranda
That's
said
the
that
Provo
last week,
thing.
yeah.
The Provo thing is not even just that it's all these crazy fans and the whiteouts and the cougar tails and, all the accoutrements that a BYU home game has, the late kickoff. All of that matters, and it has rattled more teams than it hasn't. But I think the biggest advantage is that everybody that goes and plays in those games says the same thing. We're sitting in the hotel for 10 hours waiting for this game to start, just killing time waiting for this game to start. And then it finally starts, after all this all-day-long wait. That is also part of the advantage. So, yeah, I think everybody would probably, except for Kalani Sitake, would love to just get up and play football. But, yeah, 10 o'clock is abnormal even for after dark standards, especially in the Big 12.
So Texas Tech at Arizona, then they are back home against Baylor in a couple of weeks.
And if they win, they go into the bye week at 5-1. You're 3-0 in the Big 12. You've got your road win that's been so elusive that would be a substantial road win against a really good team, and one that can hurt you offensively when your questions marks are on defense. So however you find a way to win that game would be a big deal. You'd be favored against Baylor with 2 weeks to prepare at home again. So, yeah, it's a big game if they can win it.
Houston is not who's on this pod, but they're hosting a team. In fact, TCU, who got maybe right with the win against KU last week, 38-27. Hoover's putting up big numbers. They got spanked by UCF, and then SMU bludgeoned them and hurt their feelings, as you can imagine. It's TCU guys on the pod clock.
Well, the better one this week, and they got right last week against Kansas. And defense still isn't very good, but Houston's just a total mess right now. So they should absolutely take care of business in this game.
Yeah, it was a really nice win for Josh Hoover and company. He's a really good player, and you wondered after the loss the week prior, just things felt like they were, if you pulled a thread, it might all unravel, and clearly that's not the case because they rebounded well. That was a closer game than the 11-point score showed in the end because that was a tight game all the way into the fourth quarter, and they were able to outscore the Jayhawks 10-3 in that final frame to take a lead and hold on to it, but that was a very back-and-forth game. Still think TCU has their issues, but Josh Hoover's going to give them a chance with his throwing ability. So long as they can kind of complement that here and there. There's still major questions about Andy Avalos and that new defense of his, but I don't think that's going to come into play this week. So, yeah, they should beat Houston. They're nearly 20-point favorites, so this game's not really one that needs a real big breakdown. But if they weren't able to take care of their business, that would obviously be very interesting.
As a nice win, though. They had to get that game. And, boy, don't you know the week after getting smothered by SMU had to have been very difficult. Oklahoma State 3-2, but 0-2 to open up conference play. The Cowboys are on the road. No, excuse me. They're at home against West Virginia, 3 o'clock start, ESPN2.
Look, Oklahoma State, they're, like I said before, when we went into this the other day when I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, you've already done your Oklahoma State segment.
They're in this every other year roller coaster, and this is the bad time of that. So, they don't have good quarterback play. They don't have a good defense. They're not getting the ball in Ollie Gordon's hands early and often enough. When you fall behind, he's out of the game, kind of essentially anyway. They can't keep down this path. This is a team that looks like a 7-5 team to me right now. Like, they have some good things. They have some really good wide receivers, but they have a quarterback who's a below 50% passer. And they knew that going in, and it's going to be a big this from me every week with Oklahoma State from here on out, because if they can block well and run the ball well and keep Alan Bowman from having to throw 50 passes, they're going to be in the game. If all those things don't happen, then they're going to get stroked like they did last week.
Yeah, they're a bit of a mess. I don't sense that Mike Gundy's really panicking. I mean, he's seen anything and everything at this point, so I think that's a saving grace is you have a guy like that running the program who's not going to be caught off, guard, or is going to be, frazzled by their struggles. I think he'll keep a steady beat that'll aid them well. But, yeah, they just simply have to play better. Alan Bowman hasn't played well enough a lot of the time. Ollie Gordon, he approached 100 yards last week, approached 80 more than 100, but, there was a little something there, but it's clearly not at all what anybody anticipated or thought heading into this season. The O-line clearly was a bit overrated coming into this season, and I like their receivers a lot. I think there's definitely something there with DeJon Stribling and players like that. Like, they clearly have some talent in the passing game, but the rest of the offense has just been a bit too much of a mess. And Bowman's turnovers, he could throw for 400 yards, but a couple picks here and there, a fumble. He had all 3, I think, last week. That's gonna kill you in conference play. So, that's just the offense. The defense has been a mess too. So it's weird. They're somehow good enough to probably win every game, and I guess this is life in the Big 12. Also lose every game if they don't play their best. And Bowman's turning it over. So yeah, they're in a weird spot. Like this game, I feel like they should win this at home, but at the same time, I don't know how good they really are. Like I can't tell because it's so up and down.
West Virginia is more consistent, although they have their issues. This game here with Oklahoma State, they can't be erratic.
No,
against them. No,
I mean they can't afford to lose this game. Then you go to Provo.
Yep.
And then you'll be on the road in Waco. And I know Baylor's easy to dunk on right now, but they're in these games, fellas. Like it's like a bad quarter, and I know that's every game. Like if two plays here, but Baylor can beat anybody in this league. Like don't think this is like old school 1990s Baylor where they're just atrocious. It's like they just can't finish or start well, but in between they're pretty good. So yeah, Oklahoma State needs to win this game because there's no guarantees, and you got to take advantage of the ones you have at home. So I would definitely favor them in this game, but both these teams are just so kind of weird. Like, who the hell knows what to expect here?
All right, so there we are with that. Now we go to Baylor. You just mentioned them. They'll play Oklahoma State here in a couple of 3 weeks. And on the road against Iowa State, we are asked every week by Levi to give a prediction. I look at this game. If Iowa State does just kind of what they do, I think they'll just kind of like eventually just kind of – they'll just control the game, 30-12, something like that. I have no idea. I'm not good about scores. But I kind of feel like I have a pretty good read of this team. They surely can't turn the ball over. They're going to need, to me, a defensive, pick six, but Iowa State doesn't do that. They're going to need to score in other ways. Not that the offense hasn't been productive, but I just don't know how the time of possession in this game could wear them out.
Yeah, I'll just keep it to this. And don't need to expound any further. This is what I wrote back in the for the website. Iowa State is efficient. Baylor is not. Okay. That's why I think Iowa State wins this game.
Yeah, I think Iowa State wins this game as well. had this circled as a loss before knowing really what Baylor was going to look like, but having seen what they look like, I just don't have confidence in them to be dynamic enough on offense to do what it's going to take to beat an Iowa State in Ames with their new special uniforms and all the excitement. And again, I'll use the word accoutrements surrounding this game. So yeah, I would definitely pick Iowa State every game in the Big 12, but especially as it applies to Baylor, I think they could win. But I don't see it this week, and that's going to be interesting to probably head into the bye week at 2-4. I know that'll only raise the voices of the anti-Dave Aranda detractors. I would just say to you, like, what the hell good does it do right now? Like, what good does it do to fire him right this moment? It's not saving the recruiting class. It's not holding anything together. It's just throwing up the white flag with over half the season to play. But quitters are going to quit. So I'm not going to do that. I think this team's still got a lot in front of them, but I just don't think it's going to be any kind of a rally that starts this weekend. It's just not consisting of the things that I think you need to be consisting of to go up to Ames and win this game, in my opinion.
One quick note, because we got to get to Off the Radar, and we have a guest at 5:10 and 5:30, but this is a team this year that at least gives you some oomph. They still lose, but this isn't losing 26-6. This isn't getting beat, at least not yet, like 30-10. Now, Utah almost started that, and eventually it was a fairly competitive game down the stretch, but they're giving you some glimpses of things. The problem is they can't put all three phases together at one time.
The problem is you can't do that week after week after week, because then it's like, then you're just an almost team, like J.J. Joe said. And it's like, yeah, you're almost good enough, but you're never, it doesn't matter if you wait another year or another 2 years. That doesn't mean you're ever going to not be almost and cross that line. So they got to cross that line. This would be a great week to do it. I think it's entirely possible, but I don't have faith in them at this point. I already used up all of my faith tokens with them during these first few weeks, and they crushed it with the BYU outcome last week. My faith has been put to the side for right now.
Put to sleep. All right,
I just don't have it now.
I don't think a lot of people do, and that's why again, the football team, take out the outside noise, go do your job, make some plays, make key plays. Kick a field goal when there's an opportunity to separate, or knock down a damn pass, or whatever. But, oh well, they play in Ames this weekend. When we come back, Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Around the corner, Ralph Russo, theathletic.com. Mickey Spagnola on the Cowboys and Paul's Top 5. And this is 365 Sports. And Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America. Marco's Pizza. Go online, marcos.com, and order what you want to go pick up, or they will deliver to you, whether it's wings or it's pizza or soft drinks. If you want that delivered too, they have it. And they online, there's several code words that are attached to different specials, whether it's a one topping or a topping pizza, flat bread, or whatever it is. It's loaded with different ingredients. I'm always like one of those that likes the all meat type of pizzas. They have one of those available. The extra pepperoni, the extra Italian sausage. Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in Waco, fastest growing pizza brand in America. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year, it's football season. Bird Colgan Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Riverbend Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports, segment where we, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, take a look at a grab bag of headlines and just stories of interest that we might not otherwise discuss during the course of a regular show. So got a handful of things to touch on before we head into the final hour here. And we'll start off with some NFL injury news of note with the defending Super Bowl champions. It was feared that wide receiver Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs would probably be missing some time because of a knee injury after what actually happened was Patrick Mahomes running into him as they were trying to make a tackle near the sideline, and Mahomes just went, falling and hit Rice's knee and wiped him out of that game with big fears that it was going to be significant. Well, Rashee Rice has been placed on injured reserve, so that's an automatic meaning that he will miss 4 games, the next 4 games, and that will be at least what he misses, but at least the next 4 games. Knee injury while trying to make the tackle, as I mentioned, near the sidelines after a Mahomes interception. KC still won the game against the Chargers, but the good news, I guess, here, if you're a Chiefs fan or a Rashee Rice fan, would be that it's not necessarily season-ending. Out for the next month, but they are waiting to see more as far as a full evaluation goes.
Does that change them looking at Davante Adams?
I think
that he's not out for the year?
I mean, maybe. I just don't think that the Raiders are going to be apt to send their best player to the Chiefs.
Yeah, I know. That's true. Within the division, you don't do that. But things have changed about a lot of those unwritten rules. I thought he was out for the year. So is this a Cowboys injury report, Paul? We're 4 to 6 weeks.
It might be. I mean, it might be. So.
Well, just watch out on the roadways. He'll have a lot of extra free time. I don't know if this is driving knee is messed up or not, but be on the mind or be mindful if you're driving around Kansas City because Rashee Rice has some extra free time. All right, you mentioned the wide receivers and the Cowboys and just the constant conversation that is ongoing there. Davante Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders has clearly made it known that he does not want to be in Las Vegas anymore. There's various teams that appear to be interested or make sense to have some interest in him. The New York Jets are at the top of the list because he could reunite with Aaron Rodgers, and there's a lot of guys that obviously want to go play in the New York area, right? But I think Rodgers is the huge pull here, given their previous successes together. But who knows? Like the Chiefs looking for a wide receiver, like it would be them, right? They would be the team that would like go get Davante Adams because it just seems like they have no salary cap in Kansas City, and they just always add talent no matter what the situation is. But Stephen Jones was on radio in San Antonio, the San Antonio Sports Star, and he was asked about Davante Adams and whether the Cowboys had any interest, and Stephen Jones said, "No, I don't think there's anything to that. We just signed our number 1 guy, CeeDee Lamb, and Adams is a number 1 receiver. When you have the challenges cap-wise that we have, that would be a long putt for us." So
the challenges cap-wise that we created unnecessarily, I will correct you, Stephen. But they do have cap challenges, and they've got $26 million in cap room right now. If they don't use much of it to sign anybody or bring anybody in, they can roll that over into next year to deal with some of the dead money that they're going to have because this is Zach Martin's last contractual year, and it's Tank Lawrence's last contractual year. I don't know if we've seen the last of them at the end of the season with the Cowboys. Zach Martin's even talked about retiring. Don't know what Tank Lawrence is in for. He's hurt again, but not surprised that they're not getting involved. The Cowboys don't do this. They have, I think, bigger fish to fry than wide receiver, although it would be nice to see them get a target that Dak actually has chemistry with. outside of CeeDee Lamb, but they're not in this. It's going to be the Jets or the Saints or the Bills or the Steelers or somebody who comes.
The Saints, another team that's been mentioned for him as well.
Derek Carr is his buddy, and you give Derek Carr, he's doing great with Shaheed and Olave, but you give him back Devontae Adams there. I think that would be fun. I'm kind of hoping for the Bills. I think you put them on the Bills, and that's a team that can finally knock off the Chiefs, because Josh Allen throwing to Devontae Adams and then being able to move Keon Coleman into a secondary role as he's a rookie, the Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, the guys that they have, I think that would be an ideal thing, but they also have similar cap constraints as the Cowboys.
So tonight in the NFL, prime Thursday night game, 7:15 kickoff. I always will say this at Central Time. Tampa Bay, 3-1 on the year. Baker Mayfield and the Bucs on the road in Atlanta to take on the 2-2 Falcons. So that is your Amazon matchup. And they last played in December. Buccaneers won that game, but obviously a lot of things have changed over that time period. So any interest in this one tonight? Are you going to stick to college football or stick to something else?
I'll watch a little bit of it. I love Baker Mayfield. I love Mike Evans. I love Chris Godwin. Like, the Bucs are fun to watch. And I'm hoping to see maybe a breakout game from Bijan Robinson, who is healthy and playing tonight. Fantasy people, he was a little bit banged up, but he is healthy and playing. I'll watch a little bit of this. I'm in for it.
I went on last. Was it the Cowboys who played?
Yeah.
And unfortunately for me, and I have wonderful, whatever speed or whatever power you're supposed to have when it comes to internet, mine stuck a couple of times, and I'm very impatient. But I watched I watched through it, but it stuck a few times. It's the first time I've actually watched a Thursday game via streaming.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the deal. It just depends on, I guess, where you live and the time of day sometimes and things like that. But I've had little to no issues with Prime for the most part, knock on wood. And that is coming your way tonight. If you don't want any football action, although I will go ahead and mention it again, tonight 2 games in college. You said it earlier, but Texas State at Troy, 6 o'clock on ESPN2. Texas State, couple touchdown favorites, looking to bounce back. They're just 2-2. Not what they expected when they were the G5 playoff darlings there at the very beginning of the year. And then also Sam Houston at UTEP. Sam Houston, who beat Texas State, right, last week in that thrilling game, came from behind and out of a big hole. So just coincidental that both those teams playing tonight, both of them on the road. Sam Houston at UTEP, 8 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. But if you're not in the mood for football, also got some MLB action tonight. 1 game in the playoffs, wild card game 3. Winner goes on to meet the Philadelphia Phillies on Saturday. The Mets at the Brewers, 6:08 start time on ESPN. And I don't know if this is just one of those Twitter things, but man, that ESPN broadcast was getting panned to death. Carl Ravitch just getting dragged for his just whole presentation. And they did an in-game interview, during the inning. They're interviewing a player, and it's like they're 1 out away from winning the effing game, and they're doing in-dugout interviews and nearly missing the play. And it's like, what are you doing? And it was therapeutic to watch everybody just get so angry about this, because ESPN's just trying to find something. It's like, but you're not going to find it doing an in-inning interview when they're trying to seal a freaking playoff game. What are you doing? Nobody cares.
If it's a regular season game, does it matter? If it's a regular season game, I've seen that.
I don't need in-game interviews.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Look, in the regular season, Major League Baseball's kind of pushed it, and they wanted to do it. But also, you could...
Not in a playoff game
Not in a playoff game, or not in that spot. Or if you are going to keep carrying the audio of the interview, just cut to the play.
Right, yeah.
Cut to the play. Don't just keep on the camera. That, to me, is a huge production mistake. But... and one of the things we've seen, as ESPN broadcasts more and more stuff, you get producers pushed farther and farther out and doing things. So there's some bad production decisions being made. So and look, we've seen what they've had to do ESPN Plus-wise, where they basically contract out to a certain, school or place's in-house team. Well, the in-house team is not broadcast television quality. Otherwise,
you mean
they wouldn't.
ESPN Plus?
That's what I'm saying. They contract out. Well, the in-house team is usually not network quality. Otherwise, they wouldn't be the in-house team at a stadium, right? Like there are things they're doing, and this is just spreading stuff too thin.
Yeah, so they got just absolutely destroyed for that decision-making on their production side of having the in-game interview in the end of the game with an out to go, and it was just stupid. It was stupid, and it was trying to do too much, and it's just not necessary to have these in-game interviews while live action's going on, especially in that moment. But anyways, we'll get more of that ESPN crew tonight as we got Mets at the Brewers. Everything else is set for Saturday, full slate. Tigers and Indians in the ALDS. And then I mentioned either the Brewers or Mets versus the Phillies. In the other ALDS game, Royals at the Yankees. And in the NLDS matchup that's set, Padres at the Dodgers. So we'll have the whole field set with the winner later on tonight. And there's a few things off the radar.
Yeah, and the Astros were beaten yesterday. They're knocked out. They're gone. They're not. They had been, not only have they won 7 consecutive division titles, they played in the ALCS for 7 consecutive years, which is a crazy good streak, along with winning those 2 World Series titles. But some teams that are red hot at the end, like on fire at the end. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. Off the radar every Tuesday and Thursday in around the 4:45 or so time period. When we come back, we're not done. We have Ralph Russo, now a part of theathletic.com, covers college football, was with the Associated Press. His transition, including having to change a laptop in the middle of it from one company to the next. And this is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, 1943, they opened up their doors. New location that's been there now since December of 2022. Bigger, better, faster, and stronger, which is on the east side of I-35 and what is Loop 340 and or you call it Highway 6. 1943, they opened up their doors, and they stayed in that location forever. And then all of a sudden said, okay, time to move. And they did. They always have been good. Their product has always been fantastic. They've been in business for as long as they have because the product was great, the customer service was even better, and people went back not just the first time to buy pipe, steel, metal, etc., but over and over and even generations upon generations. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. The location on Loop 340 and Highway 6, east of I-35. If you want to build something, they have it. What you need. Commercial or real estate, pioneerboys.com.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Bambi SQ, what is the number one reason or 2 or 3 reasons, Bambi, that people should contact House of Travel?
As a travel agency local here in Waco, we can take care of all your bookings, your payments, answer your questions, help you when there are issues or problems, things that may come up that you don't know what to do or how to fix them. People don't realize we don't charge a fee for what we do. It doesn't cost you extra to use a travel agent. We're just here. We get paid by the tour companies and the cruise lines to represent them. But you have an expert on your side that's here and local, and you have a name and a face to put together to help you with anything that you may need. Give us a call. We can price things for you. We can help you answer questions. We can make it simple, easy, and one stop.
Your knowledge of all the years you've done this and then spit it back to them or give them options?
It helps us to kind of know a date range, a budget, what your goals are and what you want to see and do on your vacation. And then that helps us to know what to look for, and we can narrow down and help you make the best choices for your vacation so you get the best value, you get exactly what you were hoping for, and making sure that it's taken care of with a carefree, easy, simple for you type vacation. I've been doing this for over 40 years. Every day I learn something new. I experience new situations and things that I can help take care of for people, whether it's just making sure you get the best deals and find the best vacations, or whether it's to solve that problem, like you've got a flight that's being canceled and you don't know what to do. There's weather coming up. Should I cancel my trip next week because of the hurricane? Those are things that we take care of and you don't have to worry about. You've got somebody that you can rely on that you know is an expert, knows what we're doing, have been doing this for a long time, so that you're not questioning, okay, does the person on the other end of the phone really understand what I'm asking or know how to find those deals? You've got an expert, and we are here to take care of that.
For more information, go to houseoftravelwaco.com.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
365 Sports is 5 o'clock hour. Mickey Spagnuolo around the corner. Cowboys are 2-2. Pittsburgh is next. We'll hear from him. And Paul's top 5, too. Retired stockbroker to Paul Catalina, $26 million in cap room for 1 year. Let's split 2 weeks worth. Now, you mentioned, do they have $26 million? Like, they have 3 players. Now, Micah hasn't gotten his cash yet, his bag. But they're going to end up with 3 players on that roster if Micah gets his for $100 million.
Yeah, and the cap is not going up as much next year as they thought. It's maybe more 2 years from now where they get their big cap bump. Plus, they're just going to have so much dead money. Like, Dak will still have dead money on the cap even though he signed the new contract. That doesn't just go away.
No.
The voidable years stay there because that's that cap trick that they use. The Cowboys need to stop doing it their way. That's the thing, is they're not adaptable. They have their way. They want to win. Like, I think that's where people get messed up. They're like, Jerry doesn't care about winning. He cares about this. No. He cares immensely about winning. His problem is he's so stubborn and obstinate, he can only see winning his way, right? He can't do it another way. He has to win the Jerry way. Well, that's not how the Eagles do it. That's not how the 49ers do it. They adapt with the times. Jerry just, got to do it Jerry's way.
Yeah, I'm waiting on Ralph Russo to join us. He's not ready yet.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I want to ask Ralph about is Greg Sankey's comments from yesterday.
Yeah.
Those came out, and that was another situation where everybody's reacting to the one quote that was put out there about him basically not worrying about anybody else but the SEC, and he kind of made fun of the Super League idea. Now, this particular Super League idea is not everybody's idea of a Super League. This is the regional, Texas goes and plays with the Texas schools, which is never going to happen.
Never.
So things like that will never happen. And it's 70 teams, which is not a Super League. So there's already problems with that to begin with. But I was really taken aback by a lot of the responses that I saw. Clearly there's people in the SEC that think this dude walks on water. I think he's smug, and I don't think he's got the greater good of college football in mind. I think he's doing his job as SEC commissioner to position the SEC. And so for that, I don't knock him. But I think when I hear people like Tim Brando, who we have on this show and we like, that I see him today going wait, did he really – have you not been reading the tea leaves here? This guy does not care about the greater good, and I don't know how he pulled the wool over so many people's eyes to think that he did to begin with. But it's been interesting to see the reaction to that and the fears of the Super League and the fears of the SEC picking up their ball and going home, or them and the Big Ten running off together to create some type of Super League. It was interesting, and his comments were a bit more fleshed out. It wasn't as straight to the point as it was portrayed as. So that's often every quote you see on Twitter is there's often more to it.
Yep.
Kind of like the Mike Elko comments.
Yep.
But it still wasn't anything that made you feel that much better about where this guy's going to guide everything ultimately. So,
well, let me tell you what I think about him. I think he's really good at what he does.
Yeah.
But I think what happens, and I don't care how good a person you are, how solid you are fundamentally with what you're doing. He obviously has put the SEC in a phenomenal position. And
so did his predecessors.
And
he
so
didn't do
did
it himself.
Mike Slive. Is that right?
Yeah.
But I don't care who you are. I think you can get to a point where you're full of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
that's
and
why
look,
I keep using the word smug. I
He
think
started
he's very
out in the
smug.
Southland Conference and obviously has no recollection that he used to be in one of the smaller conferences in America, which is great. He's climbed the ladder. That's great. But I do think that he might come in here and we would like, wow. But at the same time, no, he won't. At the same time, I don't care who you are, whether you're an athlete, a coach, a commissioner, a talk show host, or whoever, or a teacher, you can sometimes start to believe the headlines and maybe get way too full of yourself.
Yeah, and I believe that's one of the things that's happening right now with Greg Sankey is, like you said, like he's – well, I mean, who's stopped him? I mean, nobody's getting in his way.
And nobody's going to.
I mean, yeah, nobody's getting in his way. Nobody's stopped him.
Who can stop?
Exactly.
TV networks.
So,
Yeah. Well,
the TV networks love it. So
I saw somebody put it this way: when you're talking about an expanded playoff, or you're talking about a super league, or wherever you want to talk about, right? There's 4 people that matter, and there's no more than 4. It is Fox, it is Disney, it is Greg Sankey, and it is Mike Petitti.
Tony Petitti.
Tony Petitti, excuse me. Those are the only people that matter as far as whether a super league would ever come to be or not, right? Because like it's not happening without them all on board with it. So yeah, I think when you're in that position, you've got that power, and you kind of know that like what you do is going to set the tone for everything else, and that you could see 100 programs die off and it doesn't affect you whatsoever because your TV money is going to always be there. Like I think that. You're probably walking a little bit of a slippery slope in terms of maybe sliding into smugness a little bit. And I do think that has happened because he's got a lot of people, people talk about Brett Yormark, like, please, like it pales in comparison to people who look to Yormark and praise him versus the people who look to Sankey and treat him like he's the god of college football in some cases. Now I know that a lot of those people are like random Alabama people or, random people in wherever Tennessee that have Twitter accounts, but they have the biggest audience, they have the biggest pot of money, they have the biggest TV rights, they have them in the Big Ten, and you can trade off on either one.
They're like mirror
yeah,
images.
it's just the same
different
thing.
Personalities,
the AFC, NFC, whatever you want to refer to it as. So yeah, a lot of us would probably be perhaps trapped into some smugness that way, but I just want to shoot through because when I saw Tim Brando react the way that he did, I was like, how did you not see this? This guy does not care about the big picture college football. So for anybody that seems to think that
I asked him that question specifically. Was like, he said, no, you don't need to worry. And I'm like, well, okay. I spend my time worrying.
Right.
Because.
And it's pointless to do that, but that's what fans do and that's what media does and everything else. And if you're an Iowa State fan or a Baylor fan or an Oklahoma State fan or wherever, you don't know that you've got a spot in whatever it is moving forward. But yeah, I just couldn't believe that there were actually people out there that didn't think that he was going to ultimately do what's best for him and his conference and didn't really matter what the Big 12 looks like 5 years down the road or the ACC or anybody not named the 4 big people here, Slive, Petitti, Fox, ESPN. Yeah, they're the ones in control of everything.
The way you can still be powerful and think your shit doesn't stink and all of that, and you can have all the leverage. But there's also some couth involved here. And the fact that, like, we don't, they're wanting to be us. I mean, do you really need to say that? Is that necessary? Maybe it is. I don't have anything against him other than the fact that it just seems to be that he's kind of to the point now where he likes himself maybe more than he should. He's powerful, though. Who's going to stop him, like you said? Disney, Fox, maybe. And the commissioner, as we mentioned, from the Big Ten.
Yeah, look, he's out there, the supervillain, and there's no Avengers to come and stop him. I mean, it's just like, all right, well, there you go.
Here's the part that I have a problem with is that basically everybody has given them the power to go make all of the decisions.
Right.
Like
but
you guys
don't have to.
No, yeah, but like, there's almost like, how do you fight back though? Like, I think that's what nobody's been able to solve is like, what are you going to do? You're going to protest and say, well, we're not playing our games on ESPN. Well, who's going to pay you then? So like, you're kind of at the mercy in some ways, but now they're given so many concessions that now you've got him out there and Petitti are basically like, yeah, we need like 4 automatics every year. I know most years they're going to get their 4 or 5, but like to just build that in automatically and not be built on wins and losses, it's bullshit.
What happens
I mean, it is.
if they actually have a year where there's only a couple of really good teams? So they're going to get 4?
And guess what? They will.
They always have it. They don't need the built-in.
Everything is cyclical.
But they don't need it. But there will be a time where, they just have a tragic year. And then they're going to be like, we're going to get 4 teams, and then everybody's going to want to revolt, and everybody's going to be mad at it again. And it's like, no, just ride the wave of the cyclical nature of sports. Now, look, they've got a corner on that, but.
No, yeah. You want to add anything else to that?
No, he's doing his job, but I just think that, ultimately when you're looked at by some as this guy who's going to, they're setting the rules for everybody else to follow, and they're helping chart the new path that's needed away from the NCAA, and like they're doing some goodwill here. I don't really fully believe that, and if it was about the goodwill of college football as a whole, you wouldn't be demanding to have over half the field guaranteed between you two before a game's even played. But you're doing what's best for you, and that's just what everybody needs to remember.
That would be like in the days that we're joined by Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, in the days of when the NFC East was unbelievably good, Super Bowl winning teams, they're always like rolling. If all of a sudden the NFL gave in to the fact, well, we get 3 teams in the playoffs no matter who we are because how deep and how good the NFC East was. But guess what? It changes. It changes. And now I don't know who's any good in that division. At least that's why they have to play the games. Mickey Spagnola with us with all those great memories in his background. Mickey, thanks for your time. On the road against Pittsburgh, they got injuries. Obviously with Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence and even Brandon Cooks. What happens? Does everything change if they just somehow win a game like that in Pittsburgh, which they've been known to kind of do that?
Well, you're going to be relying on your depth, right? And you're going to be relying on a bunch of young guys that probably have never been in a role to be the starters at defensive end. You got to remember they're still missing their Pro Bowl cornerback, Deron Bland. It may be another week or so before he can return from injured reserve. And then Brandon Cook will not be available. He's got an infection around his knee. So, yeah, it's going to be difficult because you're going to have, David, 2 starters at defensive end who never started at defensive end, Marshawn Nealon and Chauncey Golston, and then those are your backups. So now you got backups to the backups being your backups, and that's a difficult position. And all the wide receivers now have to move up a notch. So all that, and you got to go on the road and play a Pittsburgh defense that's been pretty stout, except for this last game, giving up 27 points to the Colts. So. Good that they won one Sunday or Thursday night in New York to move to 2-2, because to me there's a significant difference between 1-3 and 2-2, even though mathematically it's only one game.
Mickey, this is for that young defense. You mentioned a lot of things, but 2 things jump out at me that you just would not want to see when you're in this point of your health on defense without 3 of your best players, which is Justin Fields as a running quarterback, which is something that they've kind of had trouble with a couple times in the past anyway. And then Najee Harris looks like he's kind of going along well in the running game, and Arthur Smith builds the offense around running kind of right at you.
Yeah, and once again, we'll see if this team can stop the run. They did it against the Giants, but at that point, for the majority of the game, it was all hands on deck. But yeah, it's one thing to have running backs to worry about, but now you got to worry about Justin Fields. Oh, and by the way, I forgot at the cornerback position, both guys that are expected to start at cornerback, Trayvon Diggs and Kalen Carson, both were limited in practice today. So that just adds to the defensive woes. I'm assuming both can go, but we'll see what happens. And look, the Steelers got their hands full with injuries too. So it's just around the league. It's one of the things you got to certainly deal with. But if there was a positive note in that game against the Giants, it's that Mozzie Smith started playing like what they thought he would be his rookie year when they used a first-round draft choice. So maybe that gives them a boost trying to stop the run because if they don't stop the run, they're going to have their hands full with Fields, who this past game threw for 300 yards against the Colts. And even though they lost, he's turned into a two-dimensional quarterback.
Mickey, the run game is obviously going to be a work in progress. What do you see them tweaking or changing? What they did with the Giants last week? Is the run blocking, you feel like it's getting better so that they can, look, you and I talked about it last week or a couple weeks ago about the offensive line, and you don't really get a good look at the running backs if the offensive line is not playing well. How do you feel like they're progressing together?
I thought they did a better job against the Giants. I know it wasn't a ton of yardage, but again, they weren't playing from behind. And the previous two losses, they were playing from behind right away, and it was really hard to stick with the running game, and really hard if you're not getting those snaps to kind of coordinate the running game. You got a new, basically, running back that you're trying to rely on. He had only been a rotation guy, Rico Dowdle. You got two new starters that are rookies on the offensive line. So it takes a little bit of coordination, especially since you didn't really play those starters in the preseason. This is kind of a new, old offensive line, right? You got three guys that have been there, but you got to integrate the other two guys and the running backs. So let's see if they can take the next step in this game that they may need to run, because when I've looked at the weather, it looks like there's rain in the forecast on Saturday or Sunday night to the point of 40 to 50% chance, and you may need to rely on the running game. And I'm sure they would love to be able to do that and be successful to give them an opportunity to keep their defense off the field.
Mickey, they have a stretch here, and I know they have to go week to week, no different than a high school team or a college team. But this is pretty interesting, especially since they won a game on the road. They were on the road a short week. But Steelers, Lions, 49ers. And the Steelers, I don't know if anyone really knows, if even they know who they are, although it seems like they kind of have some pretty good thing. But that is salty, man. And, I mean, you start looking at Eagles, I don't know who they are, but then the Texans, and all of a sudden Washington appears to be at least a football team. This is rather interesting what they have the rest of the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But you knew it going in. Before you even saw the list of games and the order, they knew that they were going to have a very tough schedule based on them winning the NFC East this past year. And then when you get a division that ends up with good records, it makes it even tougher in that rotation. So, yeah, it doesn't, I don't know if it matters the order of the games, because they were going to have to play all those games before. Somebody asked me the question today, would you take it if they went through the next 1, 2, 3, 4 games and emerged at 4-4? And I said, yeah, I think so, because I always thought this was a young team that would need some time to improve, because they were relying on so many inexperienced players. And maybe after 8 games, you start getting it. You understand what the NFL is. And then, maybe you improve, and then you're at least not buried after those first 8 games. So, yeah, the stretch is tough. And if you can go on the road and win a third road game out of the first 5, that would be, I think, a significant boost.
Mickey Spagnola with us, DallasCowboys.com. Cowboys against Pittsburgh, and in need of a win, in need of something. And as Mickey said, maybe even just to kind of tread water for the next month.
Mickey, what's your feeling on the vibe in the locker room right now with this team? Because, again, they had a couple of blowout losses. They had contracts holdouts and all that thing, or they've kind of been through like a bingo card of different, strife early on in this year, but doesn't seem to me like a team that's lost each other's backs or anything.
No, it's early. They're fine.
Yeah.
You just have to be careful of them paying attention to what's on the outside and the criticism. And you win a game, but it wasn't a flashy win. You win the opener on the road, and but it was the Browns. And so you beat the Giants, and it was the Giants. But a win is a win, especially when you're sitting there at 1-2. There's no problem in the locker room. And if anybody suggests that, they're not in the locker room, right? You're not watching the practices. All that seems to be fine. They just need to play better. That's all it's about. And if you win games, then, everything's fine, right? The quarterback's going to give you everything he's got. The running backs are going to give you everything they've got. And now there's some young guys that are getting a chance to play significant roles that they haven't had before. So, they're going to be ready. So I don't want to hear any of this stuff that they're not prepared or didn't practice well. There's a lot on the line for a lot of young guys here trying to make their way in the National Football League.
Against New York, I was listening to the game broadcast, obviously with Brad and Babe, and I know you're on that, the pregame and all that other stuff, postgame. But I heard, and Christy Scales, but I heard even Babe think, and like Brad said, the only must-win, or Babe has said this, anyone, is when it's the game that knocks you out, that you're no longer eligible. But I heard Babe actually think that if they would have lost to the Giants, that he was concerned that the team inside that locker room would implode.
I don't know about that. Last year they got off to a 2-3 start. Now I understand 1-3 and 2-3 is significantly different, but how much difference is 1-3 and 2-2? Mathematically, it's one game, right? But I thought it was a pivotal game to at least play well and prove to yourself that you're better than what took place against New Orleans and for 3 quarters against Baltimore. But if you think about it, they might have gained a little confidence in that 4th quarter against Baltimore, and they hadn't thrown in the towel either, by the way, and acted like, well, we got this game wrapped up, because the previous game they got their butts beat, giving up 13 straight points in the 4th quarter, and they almost did it again. So the fact that they were able to come back and make it a 1-possession game and only a 3-point loss kind of showed them, okay, we're not all that bad. And then it was like, just perform well against the Giants and try to get to 2-2. But if you perform well and you're 1-3, well, okay, but it's only one game different. Now it looks bad, right? Knowing what they had coming up. And I don't think they were ready to lose the locker room.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Mickey, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. What's the favorite picture behind you that you have on the wall?
Do I need to, can I turn around and
look?
Look?
You can. Yeah. No, yeah, you can. I know that it's been there for a while.
It's probably the lower one with Bob Lilly and Chuck Howley making a tackle.
Beating somebody up.
This was the Super Bowl 6, so the first one the Cowboys ever won. It's in one of the meeting rooms here. Yeah,
beat Miami 24-3. Mickey, thank you very much.
Sure.
As always, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com with us as they play in Pittsburgh this week after the win in New York or New Jersey. We're now joined by Ralph Russo, theathletic.com. I had to check myself. Things in life have changed for you. Saw the announcement that you, after many years with the AP, doing a great job with them now with theathletic.com. Explain or try to explain what this week has been like for you.
Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend changing jobs when you cover college football during the college football season. Makes things a little tricky. It's not ideal in terms of timing, but I'm really excited about the new opportunities. I'm also really honored to have worked for the AP for as long as I did. I mean, the best way to describe it, Smokey, is it's 29 of the last 31 years of my life. I mean, it's almost my entire career at the Associated Press. It's a great organization with great people. It raised me. When you get a chance, when you're a little closer, I'm not that old, but a little closer to the end of my career than certainly than I am the beginning. And when you get a chance to do something a little different, a new challenge, it was hard to pass it up. But my head has been spinning a little bit the last couple of days, not with the journalism part. Like when they tell me just to write a story, I'm good with that. It's human resources and Slack channels and Workday and making sure you're getting paid and switching cell phones and all that stuff. So there's been a lot of administrative stuff that has my head spinning, but the journalism and the college football, that's the easy part.
Well, this week you've already gotten to write about a lot of non-football stuff, a lot of courtroom things. So
a little of that.
Yeah. The O'Bannon lawyer challenging the settlement. This doesn't seem like good news for this getting done anytime soon.
Well, listen, any challenge is not great news. And I do wonder if this challenge, even if the judge, boy, you know, I always hate getting too deep into the weeds with this, but we're at a point where we're waiting on the judge to determine if she wants to give preliminary approval of the settlement. That's a big step. It's not the final step, but that is a big step. And she wanted some things clarified about third-party NIL deals, boosters, collectives, some rules that they had written on that. They gave her those clarifications last week in written form, and now you have this new objection that's come up. And again, the fact that it's coming from the O'Bannon lawyer, you know, guys, not all lawyers like each other. So there's an interesting interplay here between lawyers who have had success suing the NCAA, but they're not always aligned with each other. And I think that's the situation here, where you have one lawyer, all these lawyers understand the systems and they all understand college sports and the frailties of them legally. And the fact that you're right, this lawyer decided to challenge the settlement strikes me as something that might not stand in the way of ultimate approval, but could again slow the process down.
Ralph, another thing off the field from this week, we were talking about it before you joined us, was Greg Sankey's comments from the podcast that he did, where he was talking about the Super League idea, the 70-team version that had been thrown out there, and how it's not his job to dumb down the SEC to help float everybody else. And there's been a lot of reaction to that, and I'm sure there was more context to it, but I've always kind of gotten that vibe. Like, he's the SEC commissioner, not the college football commissioner. But some people seem to have thought that he's got the greater interest in mind, where I don't think that's the case. How did you take those comments and just kind of where we are in the Big Ten and the SEC starting to create their own landscape?
Yeah. So we keep going back to this idea of when is the Super League coming? And often what I tell people is, hey, guys, it might be here, and we're just not noticing it, right? Like the Big Ten, and as the Big Ten and SEC start to partner up, and clearly they're looking for more ways to partner up, when those two conferences are working together and focused on working together, what it does is it doesn't create necessarily a breakaway. It creates fewer opportunities for the rest of college football to interact with them, which then I think in turn has the ability to marginalize the rest of college football. And guys, I think I've even talked about it on this show. Like, it's one thing to sort of like say, well, the MAC fans, we don't really care if they're not involved. Because frankly, like, if you go to a MAC campus, you'll find a lot of Ohio State jerseys there, right? Ohio State sweatshirts. And if you go to a lot of Sun Belt, there's a lot of SEC fans within those, because those schools, they root for their school, but they also understand that their school is not really totally attached to the bigger part of it. They're tethered there, but they're not really part of the bigger picture of college football. But when you start marginalizing the Big 12 and the ACC, what are you losing there? And are you then fracturing your audience in a way that alienates a big chunk of people who really love college football? and you're narrowing the focus onto just 2 leagues. Maybe not. I mean, I've been literally was just talking with somebody who's giving me some data that says, people like the best of the best, and they tend to be drawn to that. But I just don't think it's the college football that we grew up with and we want. I think we want a bigger tent, but I think that they see value in a smaller tent and also smaller rooms of people making big decisions.
Ralph, but if you want the best of the best, then that means you've got to cull half the herd in the Big Ten and the SEC.
So that's a question I've really wanted to pose to Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey, and I'm not sure if they really want to be engaged in that. The next step of this, if you keep following the evolution, right now it's the Big Ten and the SEC maybe coalescing and creating, again, something that maybe the Super League is here and we're just not realizing it, guys. Like, it's a little bit of that. But the next evolution of that is Alabama sitting across the table from not just, we like to throw out Vandy all the time, right, guys? Poor Vandy. But it's not just Vandy. It's Mississippi State, Missouri, maybe South Carolina, maybe Arkansas, and saying, you're not the same as us. And in the Big Ten, I think there's even a bigger gap between the very top and some of the middle and bottom. So the question is, if you're Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey, what are you doing to prevent that? Not that we're going to cull the herd, so to speak, because the thing that's always been posed to me is this idea that the next evolution is those top tier say, we're out of here. Not that we're expanding or we're kicking you out, but we're going to go do something else by ourselves. So I think if you're big picture planning and you're Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey, why you're getting together and talking about these things together, talking about SEC and Big Ten partnerships, is to prevent that from happening, to make sure Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Michigan are happy where they are and don't decide to say, you know what, we're going to go do our own thing.
Yeah, because there's such pride, especially the SEC. Everyone has pride in their conference, but the SEC from top to bottom, Vanderbilt and South Carolina and Mississippi State can always still claim that they're a part of that conference.
No doubt.
That wins national titles. The Big Ten has a little bit of that with what Ohio State and last year with Michigan. But that would just absolutely suck, right? If all of a sudden in 5 years they all went, hey, Vandy, like you said, and we pick on Vanderbilt, or Northwestern, bye. I mean, they've had their back all this time. Some of them have been originals.
Yeah, and it goes back to a little bit of the idea of, like, why are you grandfathered in, right? I think that's one of the problems when you look at, hell, if I'm in the Big 12 and I'm any Big 12 school, whether it's from Stillwater to Salt Lake City, to Provo or down to Waco, right? I'm thinking to myself, why does Mississippi State get to be in the club? And why does Missouri get to be in the club? That's a relatively new addition. But a Mississippi State or an Ole Miss, and I don't. Like, just because they happen to sign the papers, back 60 or 70 years ago, like, there's not that much difference between a lot of those schools and what you see in the Big 12 and even big chunks of the ACC. So why do you get to be in the club and we don't? And I could understand that being, really, really frustrating, again, for others looking on. But also, again, like, I think if I'm at one of those second tier Big Ten SEC schools, that's my long-term planning. Like, when I go in my meetings and talk about 5-10 years from now, it's about what happens in the next television contract. And what happens if they start thinking, what happens if we're the ones who get left behind, right? At a certain point, it's just the next, like right now, Washington State and Oregon State were the ones who got left behind. And now the next wave of who will be the next wave of who gets left behind. And then 5 years after that, what will be the next wave of teams that get left behind? So that's what I'm constantly thinking of if I'm in an AG chair.
Ralph, what you said about, why are these teams in the club and why not me? I think that's precisely why Clemson and Florida State feel the way that they do.
Oh, no doubt.
It's not so much about the ACC and their lack of money. That's a huge part of it. It's just that they look over and they see Rutgers making this money, and they see Vanderbilt making this money, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, that's, we've got national titles. We should be making this money. And then when they talk to the ACC, and they're like, well, you're in this league. We're not that lucky. And then they're like, well, now we can't have this going on.
Well, it's not just the money thing. It's mostly money. Listen, all of this is mostly money. But it goes back to, I'll bring it back to what you guys lived through in the Big 12 with Oklahoma and Texas leaving. Those schools, right or wrong, but the perception that those schools felt like was, aside from the money, not having SEC on the jersey was becoming a disadvantage in recruiting. They were being thought of as less than, and it was hurting their. Now, again, frankly, it's easy for Texas to say that because Texas likes to blame others for their problems, right? I mean, Texas was in the weeds for 10 or 15 years, and I think there was a little bit of like, well, it's not our fault. It's just damn conference, right? But I think there was a modicum of truth to that we have gotten so far with whether you want to call it narrative, whether you want to call it truth. I mean, there's a lot of data to support what the SEC has done, and that it is a cut above the rest. But the fact of the matter is, I think it's not only the money. The money's a big part of it, but there's a perception that you are less than if you are not in one of those conferences, and especially the SEC. And I think that's where Florida State and Clemson are also thinking. It's like, how long can we compete with them? Not just because of the money, but because we have kids telling me, nah, I want to go play in the SEC, and you ain't SEC.
Ralph, good stuff, man. Congratulations. So I am thinking about getting a computer this week, a laptop. You're telling me don't do it, right? You're telling me don't do that in the middle of football season.
It's definitely. Here's the other thing too. If you got a minute, the other thing too is like, when you do this thing in the middle of football season, when you make a job change, like there's a whole bunch of it, again, administrative stuff, or like, hey, did I copy all those email down?
Yep.
When they turned my email off at the old shop, did I bring everything with me? When I don't have access to that old computer, does it mean like now I have to reset every password that I didn't write down because I'm lazy and my computer has remembered them? So there's a lot of that stuff that goes on when you switch jobs that, again, has very little to do with your job, but more about trying to be an organized person, which I am really not, and I am certainly not during the football season.
Yeah, no, it's a beatdown.
I'll show you the boat anchor power supply he has on his desk. We're trying to get it.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Like, if I unplug my laptop, it'll be dead in 5 minutes. Last thing. Did you
I had one of those. I used to have one of those.
You did? Okay. Did you have a vote in the AP Top 25, and will you have one now?
So I did not. I did, just to clear that up.
Right.
When you work for the AP, you administer the poll, you count the ballots, you pick the voters, you write stories. I never voted. I am not going to have one now, like starting now, but I could conceivably have one in the future.
Yeah.
That feels weird to me, right? Like when you like when you just get flipped and now you're in a different position in a relationship, like that feels a little weird. But I think, like I said, right now, I don't think that's a good idea for me. I'm still learning the ropes at a new job. And I do think voting is a lot of work and it's a lot of responsibility. And I would want to take it seriously. But maybe down the road, maybe into next season, I would consider it.
Yeah, especially with the outlet, because The Athletic, I've said this before, I think I have 2 subscriptions to any kind of like online type content. And they're absolutely one of the ones that I do with Bruce and Stewart and Sam, and of course Max Olson, a great friend of ours who's now at ESPN, and great to have you as a part of that too, man. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, definitely keep that subscription, and hey, everybody else subscribe too.
Absolutely. Ralph Russo, long 29 of 31 years, the Associated Press, and now a part of The Athletic, and you can see it might even open him up to even be able to like even show off even more the kind of passion and knowledge he has for the game of college football. All right, Paul Catalina's Top 5 is next.
for Paul Catalina's Top 5. Brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Oh, didn't see you there. Paul Catalina's Top 5. Super stud freshman today. Presented by Texas Beef House. Go to bitonbeef.com. Use our promo code 365sports at this and every single auction that they have for a discount at checkout. Number 5 of our super stud freshman, Ryan Wingo at Texas. Okay, let's all of us who fear Texas, because honestly, and I'm saying this, part of our annoyance with the Longhorn fan base is fear about what happens when everything starts going their way, like it is right now. They've got Quinn Ewers in this great team, and Ryan Wingo's part of it. Quinn Ewers has gotten to take some time off because he had an oblique injury. And while he rested and acquiesced and convalesced and whatever you want to say, the future of Texas took over. It was Arch Manning, and they didn't miss a beat. The world has 2 more years of Arch Manning and Ryan Wingo probably, at least 1 of Arch Manning, and 2 of Ryan Wingo. That's not even to mention all the other guys that they have, but think about Ryan Wingo and Arch Manning together for 2 more years. That's some numbers and that's some touchdowns that are going to happen. Ryan Wingo already making an impact on a wide receiver core that's really deep anyway. When you've got Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Jonte Cook, and then here's Ryan Wingo making an impact. Gunnar Helm's been fantastic at tight end for them. Nothing bad is going on at Texas right now, except this awful color. Number 4, Jordan Seaton at Colorado. Look, I would not have put him on this list 2 weeks ago, but Colorado's getting better and better at blocking, protecting Shedeur Sanders, and last week we saw some actual progress in the run game, which blew my mind. Jordan Seaton, true freshman, their highest recruit ever at Colorado, does that for them. He brings in some cachet. So they have 2 years to build an offensive line around him now that Shedeur is gone at least. So Jordan Seaton at Colorado, keep your eye on him. Here's the thing. You look at him right now, he's not even into his monster body yet. This is still 18-year-old high school eating Honey Nut Cheerios for breakfast guy. This isn't even protein shakes and egg whites and all that guy. That guy's coming, and that guy's going to be a badass. Number 3, Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. There's another wide receiver on this list, and I think you'll probably figure out who it is. But Jeremiah Smith, until a couple weeks ago, was the best true freshman wide receiver I've ever seen. He is already there. He's already built. He's been getting ready for this for a couple years now, knowing that he was going to be able to make an impact. He was the top recruit in the country for a reason. Will Howard, luckiest man on earth. You see Emeka Egbuka right there, thrilled that he has someone else on the other side to take pressure off of him. This is going to be a huge part of Ohio State's march to the Big Ten title this year, should they keep on, because Brian Hartline, the wide receiver coach, just keeps knocking it out of the park with guys like this. This dude can ball all. Number 2, Dylan Raiola at Nebraska. This, my friends, is the face of hope. Right there, jumping up and down, excitedly there in Lincoln. This guy has finally got the cachet that Nebraska has needed to get themselves out of a 20-year hole. Dylan Raiola is the dude. And again, 2 more years of him there in Nebraska as well. And I hope you didn't get that spittle on the camera that just came flying out of my mouth. But I've been talking a long time now, so starting to back up there. Dylan Raiola, again, the face of hope in Lincoln, Nebraska. This guy's going to help bring in a lot of recruits, because once they see him play, they're going to say, I want to play with that dude. This is the magnet. This is the guy who starts bringing all the other guys in. When you get that guy, you hit the ground running, and Nebraska already has. And number 1, Ryan Williams at Alabama. In one single play, he channeled Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, and Tyreek Hill to win the game for the Tide last week against Georgia. It was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life, and he's just 17 years old. This kid is amazing. We get 2 Ryan W's on this list, 1 and 5, and I just wanted to separate them so we didn't get them confused. Unbelievable what this guy can do already, and he's just 17. Again, he's not on protein shakes like everybody else. Like, he's still in his high school body right now, like Jordan Seaton and everybody else. This is going to get crazy. And I don't know what it is about dudes who wear number 2 at Alabama. They're usually really good. Garrett knows this because there's countless ones that have kept him up at night.
All too soon.
As an LSU fan. If you wear number 2 at Alabama, you're a bad mamma jamma. I'm just saying right then, you're like Shaft. You're a bad mother, shut your mouth. That's what you are. Ryan Williams is that for the Tide. That's the top 5. We're done with the show. And as long as Smokey says goodbye in an expedient fashion. But who cares if he does or not? Because that's more time we get to spend with you. Love ya. Bye.
Well, are you high?
Look, I've got to do 5 of these a week. I gotta have some energy.
All right. Well, thank you. It's brought to you by TexasBeefHouse.com. And right now, at least, for now, I am still in the middle of trying to buy a couple of Wagyu ribeye steaks. I have plenty of product from Texas Beef House in my deep freeze, but I'm going to try to see if I can maybe snag one of those before somebody else outbids me here in the next 3 minutes. You have until 6 to go to TexasBeefHouse.com or bidonbeef.com. Garrett Ross, really good job. I hate to compliment you ever, but weaving from Ralph, he had something happen with his wife, not bad, but like it kind of threw him for a loop. And then Mickey, then Ralph, and then back to the top 5.
Thank you.
No, really, you did a great job with that. Emery is right now working on 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW. And Craig is wanting to make sure that I've written the preview to promo that so we can get the hell out of here and also the studio. Paul Catalina.
Yeah, thank you for reading what I wrote about Garrett and then passing it along to him.
I wasn't going to do it. I was not going to do it.
Yeah, it's a big night. You got baseball, final wild card, and
2
then
college
Thursday
games.
night football, a couple college games. Yeah, that
Absolutely.
should be a busy night.
So thanks to all of you, whether you watch us on Twitter at 365 Sports YT, online, Sikkim 365 app, or right here on the YouTube channel 365 Sports. Craig and I have high school football tomorrow. We'll be on with the pregame for Baylor at 9 here. Paul Catalina and everyone else, I'm David Smoak. Good night.